Everyone, welcome to the Thursday, April 9th, 2026 Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Marquardt.
Here.
Commissioner Matherly.
Here.
Commissioner Barella.
Here. If y'all will please stand for the invocation. Commissioner Barella is going to lead us today.
I do have something that I'm going to read, and if I'm not putting Pastor Anthony on the spot, can you close from what I read? Close. I'm going to read something, and I was going to just do a closure of a prayer afterwards, but can you close instead?
Yes.
Okay. Mark 10:42-45 says, calling them to himself, Jesus said to them, you know that those who are recognized as rulers of the Gentiles lord over them, and their great men exercise authority over them. But it is not this way among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever wishes to be the first among you shall slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many.
Father, we love you this morning, and we thank you for breathing life into us today and purpose. Father, I pray that we never take life for granted. I pray today that this meeting would be fruitful, and that you would bless it and keep it and be with us all today. As this city and this county, we need you more than ever, God. So we ask your blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll follow us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and we'll start with our Sheriff's Office report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
David Black, Otero County Sheriff. Okay, this is a little lengthy today. For March 2026, Sheriff's Office patrol deputies responded to 2,084 calls for service. We had 258 investigative reports, 51 traffic crash investigations. We had 86 arrests, 3 warrants that were served, issued 178 traffic citations, and we served 338 subpoenas for the courts. Calls responded to in Tularosa was 75, responded to in Cloudcroft is 48, and calls responded to in Alamogordo were 370. Calls responded to in Chaparral were 640 calls. We had 71 reports, 17 arrests, and 79 animal calls. Narcotics, we had 8 search warrants. They had 30 arrests, 15 fugitives apprehended, 1 agency assist. They generated 70 case reports. We didn't have any technical cases at all that last month. The canine deployment, we have Travis Jones, who's with the White Mountain Task Force. He's a handler, dog handler for the city, and they used his canine on 4 different deployments. They seized $16,244 in cash, seized 3 firearms, 7 vehicles, and they had 29 other assets seized. They seized 335.62 grams of meth, 156 prescription pills that they didn't have prescriptions for, 20 Suboxone strips, 6.29 grams of Suboxone, 17.6 grams of fentanyl powder, and 463 fentanyl pills. A total of $63,737 worth of illegal narcotics seized. And for the first quarter in 2026, they have seized $305,669.17 worth of illegal narcotics. Narcotics and money. It did have a couple of money loads that our interdiction guys worked on and got. I wanted to throw this in real quick. Sometimes our courthouse guys get left out of the picture, and I wanted to just give them a little shout out here. They do a lot over there. They're very busy. For the month of March, they had 5,874 persons that entered the courthouse. They had 6 prisoners that they had to deal with in the holding cells. They did have 2 adult arrests, 0 on the juvenile arrests. And not too long ago, we identified a potential problem of not having a way for several offices within the Otero County Administration Building, courthouse clerks, the assessor's office, to alert law enforcement of real-time problems within their offices. And I was able to secure the funding, purchase a notification system that can send an alert to law enforcement at the push of a button, both by text and by email. This allows the sheriff's office to respond immediately to these offices and help with the problem. Last month we did have 1 alarm response. When they got there to check it out, it was an accidental. They dropped some paperwork on the button and set off the alarm. But
It works.
it works. Our guys got there real quick. They did serve 3 subpoenas within the court. They served 3 TROs. They had 8 citizens that they fingerprinted at the courthouse. They did do 14 prisoner transport. They had 41 knives that were confiscated, 1 box cutter, 2 pepper sprays, 1 taser, 1 handcuff key. And all of the above was done while still providing for security in the courtrooms for a total of 20 trials or hearings. In our public relations events, March 12th, we went to the Tularosa Intermediate School for their career day. On the 13th, we went to Chaparral Elementary for their career day. And then also went to La Union Elementary on their career day. In training, I think I kind of talked about this a little bit last month, but I wanted to bring it up again just to myself, Under Sheriff Robles, several other deputies attended the Western States Sheriff's Association Conference in Reno, Nevada. Best conference by far I go to every year. With the number 1, the training, the vendors, new products, and networking with sheriffs from 18 other states. I had Deputy Torres and Woodring attend a basic TACMED instructor class, which is a class to teach combat casualty care in the field. This also allows them to teach classes to all other deputies within the agency, as well as invite surrounding agencies to attend those trainings. Deputy Ball attended a 2-week advanced traffic crash investigations course. Will soon attend the 2nd phase of this class to receive his accident reconstructionist certificate. Deputy Rocha attended a street survival class that enhances his knowledge to recognize certain things that the criminal element does. Deputy Reyes, she's our sex offender registration person. She attended her sex offender supervision and management boot camp to make sure the practices by the Otero County Sheriff's Office are compliant with state and federal law. Sergeant Villa attended the Safer New Mexico Buckle Up Conference. It's a recertification so that he can help participate in the car seat clinics. And I did have 5 deputies attend a week-long basic SWAT training in El Paso, getting their basic SWAT certification. These guys did really good down there. They were often referred to as the varsity team at the training, so they're pretty spun up on what's going on. I do have 1 deputy currently at the Southern New Mexico Law Enforcement Academy. We just got through with the midpoint review. He's doing very, very well. He's already met his exit standards, and he's got like a 93.08 GPA, so he's doing very well. I got 4 deputies currently in the FTO phase. I got 1 lateral transfer that will be completing his FTO next week. 1 that will be attending, he's actually in the Cert by Waiver class right now in Santa Fe, and he'll start his FTO shortly afterwards. Hopefully, all of these deputies will be on solo patrol come 1st of June. We currently have 2 Tahoes waiting for upfit at the emergency equipment. One in the shop being worked on, the other one waiting for base space. And I just wanted to give a shout out. I know county manager has been working very hard to get capital outlay money released. Thank you for everything you've been doing. I know it's been kind of a pain, but thank you for everything you've done. Once we get capital outlay money, we got 7 Tahoes and 2 trucks waiting for us in Los Lunas. And hopefully, first part of next week, we'll get a PO issued for those who go pick them up. So that is all I have. I stand for any questions you may have.
I have one question, David. I'm going to Chaparral tonight on a Representative Silva put together a cannabis meeting with all the cannabis owners. And she's bringing some doctor to come in on selling to minors, a get together, asking questions on selling to minors, the abuse of it, blah, 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 a whole little thing. If you have any questions you'd like me to ask, you want to text me them and I'll ask them tonight.
Okay.
Unless Raul happens to want to pop in, but I don't know if a badge is going to shut those people up, you know.
Good. Sometimes it does. But,
I mean, if you have some questions, seriously.
yeah, I will do that. When we get done here, we have a staff meeting planned for after this. I'll get together with all of them and see if, brainstorm and see what we need to
Okay.
ask.
I appreciate that you did tell us about the courthouse deputies, because they do good work over there, and every time I've been in there, they're super professional, very polite, very good at their job, so I'm glad that you gave them that recognition.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over there, and yeah, a lot of times people don't see it, so
Yeah.
I wanted to shout out to them.
Yeah, well, they deserve it. And this Suboxone, do you put that about the same level of drug as like fentanyl, or is it, no, it's not as,
No, it's
Bad
not
as
near
fentanyl?
Near as bad as fentanyl.
because it seems like your reports now have that on there every month, and like, before we hadn't even heard of it until a few months ago.
Yeah.
So it's a new,
And it's been around a long time, it's just a little more prevalent now.
is it cheaper?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, a whole lot cheaper.
okay, all right.
You know, the courthouse, one time I went in and threw all my stuff in the box to go through, and my keys were in there, and on a keychain, one of it was a little fold-out knife that I didn't even know was a fold-out knife. It was just something I picked up at one of these county affiliate meetings or whatever, and
Yeah.
thought it was neat. And they said, "You can't take a knife in there." I said, I don't have a knife. And they pulled it out. I'm like, "Oh, well, I didn't know that. Throw it in the trash then."
Yeah.
So they caught it. I didn't even know
They
it.
do. They find a lot.
Yes.
I bet.
I got a good group over there,
Yeah.
and they do good work, so it's deserving of a shout out for them.
Yeah. Lots of moving parts at the
Yes.
sheriff's office.
The new courthouse, will it have equipment in it that'll help detect more of some?
Yeah.
Sound like you got a lot of contraband come from that place.
Oh, yeah. What we're trying to push for is, instead of having to do the x-ray machine and the metal detector, there's some other equipment, out there, up-to-date stuff that basically you walk through 2 standing wands, and there's a computer where the guys will be looking at it, and it'll highlight. So if I walked in right now, it would put a square on where my gun is. So we would stop that person.
Yeah.
So if we got 20 people walk through, instead of stopping every single person, if we get a highlight or something like that on some of that, that machine tells us and stuff, we're going to pull that person aside and check them a little more thoroughly. But I think it'll eliminate a lot of standing in line, hassle, stuff like that. So it'll be nice to have.
I can see him getting through, trying to sneak knives and keys through, but a taser is a pretty big object to try to sneak through there.
Yeah, it's one of the handheld tasers. Yeah,
Some people.
yeah, it's just
All right.
never surprising.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Robert not here from Taberta?
He's
He's in the hall.
Oh, okay. I was looking for him. There he
Morning.
Good morning. And if you'll state your name, please.
Robert Noreen, the Toronto director, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm Audrey Cowan, one of the supervisors.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So before I begin, I would like to ask a favor of the commission. I forgot to put it on the agenda, but next week is Telecommunicator Week, so if we could recognize that in some shape or form.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Alright, now to the nitty gritty. For the month of March, we had almost 8,500 calls entered for service. Overall, we had just 50 calls shy of 11,000 totality. Admin calls took about 8,000. 911 calls was 2,800. Our abandonment rate fell by 0.30% to being 3.80. Our average speed of answer was 4.5 seconds. For types of service, we had over 7,000 police calls, 1,000 medical calls, 600 fire calls. As far as staffing, I have 10 that are fully trained. I had 6 that were in training. Our overtime hours did go up, but our vacation did as well, so they kind of balance each other out, but gave our staff a much needed break. And then our sick time went down considerably. So I have people present and they are more rested.
Good. That's
Yay,
good.
good
That's better.
job.
Yes, they're awake.
Good job.
That's really good. Those are good numbers.
But I now stand for any questions the commission has.
Anything else?
You had a lot of buildings jump out in front of cars this last.
We did,
Yes.
it's been, yeah, Audrey can definitely speak to that, especially yesterday.
I know, I heard that when I was parked at Calici's eating lunch, and there's a car, so I didn't see it, but I heard the bam, and then,
I think we had 3 building hits in the last, week. It's crazy.
It does.
Yeah, so good job. I hear it. And I've heard for the first time, and probably just because I haven't paid attention, is an iPhone crash. Can you explain what that means?
Your iPhone or even your watch has like a sensor in it, so if it falls too hard, it does it for falls sometimes too. I guess if it moves too fast or hits it a certain force or whatever, I'm not sure how exactly it works. But the phone itself calls into the 911 center just saying that we've detected a crash, we've detected a fall. It gives you the GPS coordinates. And then it allows you can stop the message, the automated message from the coordinates and everything, and you can talk to the caller if they'll answer. Most of the times it's like somebody left their phone on their hood and then took off, so we're talking to nobody. But we have had a couple that have been actual crashes. We had one probably a couple years ago that was up on 82 she went down off the hill, and that was the one way we found her.
that's interesting.
That's what happened last night in the middle of the meeting. And I didn't know what that one guy was saying. It was because I got a text that my wife had an accident.
Yeah.
An iPhone crash. Her iPhone notified you.
Yeah, it texted me and called 911. Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Is that an app you have to download? Or is it come on?
It's part of
on
it. It's
the
part of
phone?
the SOS function. I mean, sometimes I'm working out, my watch accidentally goes into it. And, I mean, it's fair. I feel like I'm dying.
It's like, thanks, phone.
So obviously it's beneficial, but are we getting a lot of calls that you're responding to that, like a phone falling off of a car, which is kind of the balance?
At first, it was a lot worse when the feature first started. I know like people who were on roller coasters, that's what it would go off for because of the speed that they were going. But I think from my point of view, it's gone down considerably.
Okay.
Interesting. Learn something new every day.
Yep. Good.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you. You're doing a good job.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Morning, Commissioners. Matt Clark, Emergency Services.
Good morning. Morning.
Cody Boswell, Code Enforcement Supervisor.
Man, you just come right on in now. Huh?
Yeah.
Must have something to tell us.
So for the month of March, we did 5 solid waste, 3 illegal dumping, 2 weed complaints, 2 open burns, and we picked up a little trash on the road. We responded to 10 fire calls, 7 EMS calls. We inspected 4 daycares and 1 commercial structure. We have 2 cases that are awaiting court. Total of 11 cases right now that are open. We have 5 buildings still in the dilapidated phase of them responding to our letters. Closed 1 case and we did 4 fire investigations. Our guys have been busy helping out the volunteers through pump testing and a lot of training this month, so our numbers are lower because of that. And we had some personnel not in the office. 5 Angie Court, we still have the bench warrant. Jung Sun has a bench warrant. Mike Court has a bench warrant. Tractor Road is still providing us updates on his trash status, I guess.
I didn't hear, Matt, excuse me, but I didn't hear anything on First Street and
First Street is awaiting court. 3 Popular Drive, we hand delivered the violation at the end of the month because the letter was returned to us. Desert Star goes to trial May 23rd. 83 Otero is one of the properties that was on the dilapidated. They filed an appeal with RB to stop us from tearing it down. What they're doing is they're in the process of donating the property to a church who then is going to sell it, and that way they get the profit, but we're following up to make sure that it's not going to stall out. We're working with them, making sure they give us a timeline of when they expect the cleanup so that it doesn't fall backwards. And the volunteers responded to 14 fires, 230 medical calls, 12 non-emergent calls, 7 public service requests, 7 hazardous type calls, and a total of 274 for the month of March. I also want to thank Pamela for all of her hard work that she did bothering DFA to get the paperwork to us so that
They
we
definitely
can
know her name
progress.
now.
I don't know my name yet.
I'm sure they look at the caller ID now and go, oh, great. We are in the middle still, we're hitting the tail end of our Community Wildlife Protection Plan update. We had a public meeting. It was very well attended. Got a lot of good stuff that our contractor's going through, compiling all that data to put into the plan for us. Our hazard mitigation plan is moving forward. We're hopeful that June, we should see both those plans pretty close to finalized and ready for approvals. And our EOP, the Emergency Operations Plan, is moving forward as well. And same thing, should be ready June, July is what they're anticipating. With that, questions?
I talked to Matt last night, and after we were talking on the dams out there, that is in that program too. So
Okay, good.
it's in the works being done also.
The dams are actually covered in community wildlife and in the hazard mitigation plan.
Okay.
Because those are both, all 3 of those dams need to be, some sort of mitigation needs to happen, and entering them in both these plans, if federal money or other monies become available, it just helps strengthen our cause to get that money.
That's good.
So did you check to see if you missed that email on that meeting, or?
I have not had a chance yet.
Vicky, do you email him on those meetings, Matt?
For the one that we had earlier this
Yeah.
No, he wasn't, he wasn't included in that one, but we'll
Yeah, okay.
We attend so many meetings together on my own myself. But I did update the dam pages for those.
What is the status of getting that sign installed at the RV park in Mayhill for them to sign up for emergency text messages?
I will start working on that. That is, I hadn't moved forward on that, so I apologize. But I'll have to work with the RV park. If not, it'll be working with the state, since it's a state road, to see if I can put up a sign. On there.
We talked about it at the Soil and Water Conservation District meeting on Tuesday. And I'm gonna get with Matt and go up there with him so we can have a conversation and bring clarity to the situation. That it is necessary. We don't want a situation like Texas experienced last summer. And we need to be proactive, and it's in everyone's interest that there's awareness of the risk and the ability to receive alerts and get ahead of it if there is a flood event, because, you know, time is crucial there. You can't get the time back.
On Curtis Dam, there is a sensor, and it does send out alerts. I know that it works because they were doing maintenance on it, and I probably got about 50 phone calls and text messages from the dam saying, I have low battery, come fix me.
Oh, that's
This is
what,
Curtis Canyon Dam.
are the dispatch people still here? That was one thing we need to talk to them about, remember?
If they get notification on it.
And I didn't ask if they got it. When I had called, they put a note in CAD that said, ignore the message coming in. They are on there, it's supposed to call the alarm line. We use Genesis for all of our alerting and evacuation to let the residents know. The Genesis Protect is an app to download, and as long as you keep it where it follows you, it's not tracking any data. All it is as you go through Otero County and even into Lincoln County now, because Lincoln County is on the Genesis as well, it'll tell you if you're entering into an area that maybe there's a fire, a flood, something that requires a shelter in place. It'll alert your phone. And then the alerting we do through Genesis as well. And one of the new things that they're releasing this month, I'll be able to tie into that phone that sits at Curtis Dam, and it'll actually start, I can have it push alerts through the Genesis without me doing anything. It'll automatically take that, the water level is here, and it'll alert everyone in that area. So I'm excited for this upgrade that Genesis is doing. Waiting for that to happen so I can turn that on, but I do get those notifications so that I can push the alerts and the iPause so that everyone in that area does get notified.
Can you send the dispatch center a memo to where they can pass it out to their dispatchers? Because it is, kind of sounds like a prank call whenever it calls. Hello,
This is
this is Curtis
Curtis
Dam. Don't just hang up on it.
I can do that, yeah.
Matt, I'll get with you to do another tabletop exercise. That was one of the recommendations
Okay.
that we had, was we should probably do that now that we have the early warning system in
Right.
there. So we can get everybody together.
That'd be good.
Okay, good.
And I know you touched on Popular with the return letter. I seen that they're trying to put up a little makeshift fence when I was in that neighborhood this weekend. Is that going to be enough to address their issues?
On the violation, I put that all the stuff needs to be removed and disposed of properly. I didn't mention anything about screening.
Okay,
I'll go by and check it out and see, and I'll let you know.
okay. Because now the complaint that I'm getting consistently is that kids need to walk by that street, and the people are just out of control. And then that new complaint, I'm trying to remember the address. It was in Dunnigan that I emailed you on this week, or maybe Monday or Friday.
Quill Trail?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll get by there and look at that.
That's those squatters, right? Is that the one that?
Yeah, that was the
Okay.
squatters. I'll go by and look and see what I can come up with for us.
Okay,
what I can
and
do.
that's the one that has the open cesspool, I think. Right, no electricity, no septic, no nothing. I'm pretty sure that's the same property.
Okay, and the septic has to go through EPA. I can't do anything on that, but I'll
Okay,
give a referral to them if I see that.
okay.
Is that the one that we discussed, Cody?
No, that was 28 Critter.
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
No. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Porter, Otero County Road Department.
Good morning.
So for the month of March, we got our projects turned in for 2027 with the state. We've started working 26's projects. We're starting widening on 16 Springs. We replaced culverts on Mirasol Lane and Thule, where we're gonna be doing actually a complete rebuild on that road. Replaced culverts on Stonewood down in Bowles Acres. Cleaned a cattle guard on BO 14, generated some more pit run material, and we're also starting that mini crusher that's on the front of the loader up in Upper Penasco, and we're pulling, what it allows us to do is a joint effort with the Forest Service. We can pull the windrow of rock that we've been just kind of getting rough off the sides into the middle of the road and basically turn it into base course to cover that road, so it's actually working pretty good. Patching throughout the county, brush trimming up in the foothills, and we've started our roof spraying for the season already, and it's been a bumper crop, and Vicki and I are both shaking our heads at it. It's horrible this year. It's hard to stay ahead of it on this one. Matt and I were working with FEMA on more of the flooding from last June. We actually spent the entire month of March down there. I actually moved my camper down there to spend some time on a bulldozer to generate more material in the pit. We finished it up on the last lift of material on FO 17 last week, so we've got one more road to do, plus the 4 big projects that we're waiting to hear from FEMA on. And no snow, which is another scary.
When we were up at 16 Springs the other day, we saw a bunch of our guys up there working. Are they falling trees to widen that road, or is that
So,
part of a thinning project?
We're taking some of the trees out to widen that road up on through between the switchbacks. We're trying to get a 25-foot width on it. We won't be able to chip seal that because we don't have any guardrail on there. But we're trying to get it wider now for future. We were also working with Co-op because they're gonna move a couple of their poles for this widening program, and they were up there thinning some of their trees around the power lines.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that when we were up on that road, getting dusted out.
It was muddy the other day.
I bet. Any questions for Tom?
Tom, one thing, the resident that lives at the end of Hamilton, where that ditch is, where it hit the Air Force property, he's saying that thing's overwhelmed. I think he thinks you're supposed to mow it or whatever every year, I don't know.
Well, we had the fire departments go in last year and burn it, and I'd get with Jacob on that again, see if
Yeah,
it
it-
get burned.
If that was
'Cause
effective,
we can't get a mower in there, there's no way to get a mower down in there. We can get the excavator in there to pull the material out, but it's a lot easier just to have them burn it.
could you check with them and see if they could do that? Thank you.
Fixing to pass a no burn restriction. I don't think that's gonna be possible.
So they have to wait.
Yeah. Alamo Street culverts, I got a call and they're clogged, and they were asking if they could be cleaned out, the new culverts that were installed last year, I think it was. They're concerned about the rainy season and those culverts being full of trash. And then, do you have an update on those culverts that are actually on Muscalero that are stopping the water from flowing to Bent? I know that we offered, that was from that Bent meeting.
Yep, and they've had no contact with me on that at all.
Okay. So is it proper for me if I get a hold of Dwayne from Muscalero so that you can show him? Do you recognize where that area is?
I have a ballpark idea where that is, I'm not really sure.
Okay, because I've had several conversations with Muscalero about it, and they're unsure of the exact location that needs to be
Yeah,
cleaned up.
I'm not either. Matt might have a better location on that. from
Okay.
that flooding we had last year.
And then I have a question about the FEMA funding. I know that the Mesa had those severe floods out there, and that you've been out there fixing that for a long time. We haven't actually received any of the FEMA funds.
No, and Matt and I are still working with the state side of it, and getting all the paperwork turned in. It's a slow process, and right now FEMA's been on furlough, so they're working from their hotel rooms.
I mean, we also are, with that same flooding mitigation, was above La Luz and east of Tularosa and all those areas too. Are we working on those areas before
Not with
flooding?
this.
But that was all in that FEMA request? It was only the Mesa?
Well, the Mesa and Bent. Bent's tied in on that with Mauer and some of the other places.
So then which flood am I thinking of that damaged the La Luz water lines, went down there, wash and all of that? Which flood was that?
I'm not sure. Are you talking over there by the water?
Where it went down their alleyway and exposed all their water
That-
lines?
That happens with any half-inch, three-quarter-inch rain they get up in there. It all comes down through that way.
Are we doing anything with FEMA to?
No, the city is supposed to be doing the drainage design on that one from up above there to keep most of the water out of there.
Okay. Because I thought we were just gonna go in and fix the Mesa, just like patch it, not actually full repair.
Well, no, we have to do total repair for FEMA to come in and give us the money, and we have to repair the roads anyways. The only things we're not, there's four low water crossings, including the one at Three Rivers that got destroyed last year, that we're waiting for that money from FEMA before we can do anything with them, because they're such high dollar tickets.
I'm just getting ready for, right there, Dunnigan getting flooded out, La Luz getting flooded out, this new, where the solar field on the south side of Tularosa getting flooded out. We're just getting ready for that, but we last year got the complaints, but we're not addressing it.
So again, like with Riata, the residents out there were told to do a class action against the state. Nobody ever did. With Dunnigan, it's the same thing. They've got to get against the city. There's nothing we can do to stop that water.
We're in a basin, which means water.
And unfortunately, between the design for the drainage that the city has done, the design that the state has done for the bypass in 5470, it has dumped all that water into tighter areas instead of, 5470 used to have a total of 36 culverts, it's down to 13. That water, they took all that water that used to be spread out over that 10, 15 miles and brought it from 36 areas down to 13 areas.
And then we have that new one that I can't remember if I added you on that email or if I added Matt on that email off of Mountain Meadows that comes down. They said that previously was a berm on BLM that is no longer.
Matt and I talked about that the other day, and he went and looked at it. He and I have not gone out and looked at it,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Yep, and I think that's part of that FEMA project too, is, no?
No, that has nothing to do with what we're doing with the damages from FEMA.
So when we did that study, that incomplete study that we did, they didn't encode any of those
That
areas?
study is something completely different, yeah, and Matt would know more on that one than I would.
Okay. Okay,
All right.
that's all I got.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Good morning, Commissioners. Trent Parker, Project
Good morning.
Manager.
Happy spring with that shirt.
It's the wrong selection. It's an icebox.
I know it is freezing. I'm freezing.
First up is Chin's, the roof replacement. We did receive the signed agreements
Praise
this
the
week finally,
Lord.
so I've already
Thank you,
reached out for updated proposals from the architect and from the contractor so that we can move forward with that. And Pamela was probably a household name in Santa Fe, right?
I'm sure she,
Was Nancy your first phone call?
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
that's right.
But we're looking forward to expediting that and getting that moving forward as quickly as possible. The Otero County New District Courthouse, Monday, we have a meeting to finalize the first initial work start packages for the contractor. Once those are finalized and handed to the contractor, they can start selecting their subcontractors. And so we're actually looking at possibly a groundbreaking date towards the end of June. So we're making good progress now.
That's awesome.
The Twin Forks and Bent flood improvements, we've got the 90% drawings on that. They're under review for review and final comment so that we can start working on getting funding for those projects. Railroad Avenue Bridge, Tom and I have a meeting with the engineers and DOT next week to review the 60% drawings and get DOT sign off for that. The Jackrabbits Flat Fire Department, the water storage tanks, we're just about finished with that. They're out sheeting the pump house today, and then the plumbers will be able to set their pumps and get everything finalized, and that'll put us up to 33,000 gallons of stored water at that location. The demo projects, I've currently got 5 of them that I've received the asbestos reports and pricing on, and I'll be getting with Cody to move forward on some of those. I understand some of them are kind of on hold right now, but we'll keep those pushing forward. The shooting range improvements grant, we have everything under contract. We're just waiting for final BLM approval to install the new 100-yard range and to move the archery bay. The law enforcement facility in Chaparral, we still don't have the agreements on that one, but I know that's being pushed pretty hard, so. The animal shelter kennel grant, I've been kind of inundated with a lot of stuff here lately, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to move on that. If my schedule holds, I'll be able to get with Loretta next week to finalize some options on the building itself so that we can get it ordered and figure out the exact location and what's going to be needed for utilities and everything. The 16 Springs plaque, we did the plaque dedication this week. I think
Very
that was
well.
a pretty good turnout.
Really
I think
nice.
the family was pleased with that. I'll get back up there to get that one put into place. An administration building historical assessment plan, I should be receiving the final plan for that by the end of this month, and then we'll be able to start exploring some options to get grants to do some improvements to this building. The administration entry improvements, the ballistic glass should be delivered towards the end of May, and so that'll finish up that part of the project. The camera equipment and access control equipment has been received, so they're going to be scheduled to come in and start putting in some of that materials. The Ora Vista Fire Station, the contractor on Monday is going to start the foundation footings and concrete forms for that project so that we can get ready to place concrete. And then the building is scheduled to deliver on April 29th. Other than that, got a lot of other little things going on, but it's been good.
A lot going on.
Appreciate you on that Charles Walker deal. That was, I'm
Really
sure
nice.
the family appreciated that a lot. Trent, when you fill up those tanks up there, like in the mountains and stuff, where you put, like you're talking about 30,000 gallon, why are you filling that?
So like the one at 16 Springs, that one's a 208,000 gallon. That took almost a month to fill, but we were just doing it in intervals, using the well water.
Are you getting complaints from the neighbors? Because I know the one up there on that, well, where John and Cindy live, they're all on a spring box and stuff, and certain times of the years, they're almost completely run to just a little trickle.
Where is that at?
It's in that way. It's right below the fire station up there in La Luz, right there where you turn off to RB's house.
See, in that tank that's up there, They don't use the tank unless they have to. It's kind of reserved. So if there's an active fire in the area, they'll fill trucks off of that tank and then they'll refill that tank. So it's not that it's not actively filling very often.
I just didn't notice, I just got thinking about when you were talking about the amount of water you're taking in the mountains, that will make a big difference to a lot of folks up there.
And that's why when we filled it initially, because that was the big part, was we did it in intervals. We'd pump for 6 hours and then let it stand for 24 and then pump for 6 hours so that we weren't having that big of an impact and drawing down on that well.
Anything else?
What's the status of the flagpole?
I left a message with, what is his name again?
John Green?
John. I spoke to him on the phone and said that he could work with me to get that accomplished. And he had to get off the phone and said he had something to attend to and he would call me back, and I'm still waiting.
Okay,
So I have reached out to him and told him I'd be his contact and we'd get it done.
okay.
With flagpole.
Mr. Green.
At the corner of 5470 and 82. He's donating property, so we could put like a super large flagpole up right there. He's gonna donate the pole, we just maintain the flag.
I'll reach out to him again.
Okay.
Right there where his property is? Okay, yeah, that'd be neat. Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Thanks, Trent.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Nina Sisler, Correctional Services Director. March report, our average daily population for March is 173. Today's population was 159. We have 126 males, 33 females, 2 at Otero Prison, 5 at treatment furloughs, 1 on a regular furlough, 2 DOC holds, and 2 Lincoln County. I have 5 juveniles, one in Donna Ana, 2 males in Bernalillo, and 2 males in Lincoln County. Inside facility courts, I had 68 with municipal court, 113 through magistrate court, 121 through district court, 6 out of county courts, 5 Tularosa municipal, and in person, we had 20 magistrate courts, individuals that went to magistrate, 9 district, in person as well. Vacancies, I have 8 full-time and 1 part-time. We did have 2 staff start on Tuesday. I have 1 that starts on the 13th and 1 that starts on the 20th. Department of Corrections transports, I had 7 males transported to Central New Mexico Correctional Facility in Los Lunas, New Mexico. Had 2 males transported to Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility in Las Cruces, New Mexico. 2 males transported to Darren's Place for treatment in Espanola, New Mexico. 1 male transported to Grand Summit for treatment in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And other, I have our Employee of the Month for March 2026 was our maintenance specialist, Martin Santiago. And we did have 2 staff attend the job fair, Burt Broadcasting at the mall on March 21st, 2026. And there's 1 next week as well that we will attend.
I know the New Mexico Association of Counties is really gonna take a run at the state next year in the 60-day legislature for reimbursement for transportation.
Okay.
So we need to start really keeping those records.
I do.
Keep them, and what it cost us, not just the general thing, but what it costs, because it's in the millions that they're not reimbursing the counties for.
Yes.
And the message from the Senate, or the leadership up there this year was, well, then you need to sue the state to get your money, because every year we ask for it and every year we don't get it. So it's just another unfunded mandate, basically, that the counties are having to pay for. So really keep track of that information as
Yes,
much
ma'am.
as you can.
I do,
Okay.
every month.
Okay, if you'll send it to me, and
Okay,
then when I'll go to the board meetings and stuff, I'll
Okay.
start turning it in.
Okay,
Okay,
awesome.
okay, perfect, thank you.
Anything else?
How are we doing on our training out there?
Right now, we're doing orientation, so it's a whole week, well, 32 hours.
Oh,
They
okay.
have one this week, next week, and the following week.
Commissioners, if I may on that, myself, RB, Nina, and Josh Sturgeon met this week to review the current training plans out there. I have Josh working on a more extensive training program and tracking process for that. I have given staff 2 weeks to review his draft, and we will meet in 2 weeks again to start putting things in place.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mark Trinidad, Lincoln National Forest.
Good
Want to
morning.
give you a little update. You know, I think you're aware we went into stage 1 fire restrictions on the 27th of March, and that will continue even though we're in kind of an anomaly right now of a damp spell. You know, just in general, March precipitation was 0.76 inches below the normal. And the average temperature was 54 degrees, which is plus 10.5 degrees warmer than the long-term average. And fire prevention and education team, now through the 20th, we'll have a multi-agency fire prevention and education team working on the Lincoln to promote fire safety messages for visitors. So they'll be sharing fire prevention information with local businesses. They'll visit historic sites, campgrounds, day use areas, attend community events in other areas across the forest. So they rolled in last night. It's a pretty good sized team, very well organized, and they're working across the region to help prevent fires. The timber sales, we completed an advertisement for a timber sale on the South Sacramento Restoration Project. So that'll be an opportunity to bid for 30 days, and then the contract hopefully will be awarded. The shared stewardship agreement with the Forest Service and the state, we expect to be finalized in July. So, you know, that signing ceremony will be with the governor and with the chief of the Forest Service from DC. The next thing is prescribed fire. So we're preparing a prescribed fire in the 16 Springs area right now. It's about 200, a little over 200 acres in Latham Canyon on the Sacramento Ranger District. To assist with the project, we got the Smoky Bear Hot Shots and the Sacramento engines, and we got 2 engines from the Prescott National Forest, 1 engine from the Tonto National Forest, 1 engine from the Coconino, and 1 engine from the Mendocino National Forest. So hopefully that prescribed fire will be approved and we can get started in the next day or two. Well, we got a perfect window. So we got February weather right now in this little window, even though we're in fire restrictions.
So what's the status on the thinning project for around Cloudcroft? Because my understanding, I thought it was supposed to be bidding in April or May, the project for around the town of Cloudcroft.
Cloudcroft, Louis. That project's still moving along. You know, it is one of our hot priorities, but there's a lot going on with disaster recovery and SSRP and a couple other things. So the interdisciplinary team meeting is today for that project. So there's still environmental assessment. It's actually a CE instead of an EA, and you know that's going to get done this summer. So, you know, I think the largest amount of the activity won't start until this fall.
Didn't when we were up there at that meeting at Forest Service, didn't they say they were bidding that in
I thought they did.
April or
this
May?
earlier.
Yeah, there are some components of it that are mastication that are part of an agreement with the National Forest Foundation. So there are little pieces of it that are working, but on a large, broad scale, most of the work won't start until the fall.
I just saw a really cool new machine, it's tethered mastication. Have you seen that? They tether it off and it's got this little masticating machine and it goes down those real steep hills and just chews stuff up. It's pretty cool. I don't know what
It
they
is.
cost, but they're pretty neat piece of equipment.
We need a lot more of those too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda, and we're going to pull item number 16 for discussion, so I'll read the rest of them first. Okay, number 1, request approval of accounts payable bills BL 35, 36, 36A, and 37, and 38. Number 2, request approval of February 12, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Number 3, request approval of February 13th, 2026 emergency meeting minutes. Number 4, request approval of March 25th, 2026 special meeting minutes. Number 5, request approval of healthcare assistance claims and disposition claims for April 2026. Number 6, request approval of resolution number 04-09-26/114-65, open burning restrictions. Number 7, request approval of resolution 04-09-26/114-69, budget adjustments, April 2026. Number 8, request approval of resolution 04-09-26/114-70, authorizing the tour of the Bull Public Art and Heritage Tourism Initiative. Number 9, request approval to award RFP 26-005 lease management 204 Angelina Boulevard to Presbyterian Medical Services. Number 10, request approval of a grant agreement between Otero County and the Department of Finance and Administration in the amount of $973,000 to purchase and equip vehicles for the Sheriff's Office. Number 11, request approval of a grant agreement between Otero County and the Department of Finance and Administration in the amount of $400,000 to purchase and equip command vehicles, including emergency service response equipment for the Office of Emergency Services. Number 12, request approval to appoint Adam Hoppus to the Keep Otero Beautiful Advisory Board. Number 13, request approval of an agreement between Otero County and Dr. Ronald Chad Carver as the Otero County Medical Director for 2026. Number 14, request approval of the FY23 Operation Stone Garden off-cycle grant agreement between Otero County and the State of New Mexico Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $307,066.58. Number 15, request approval to purchase 63 automated external defibrillators from AED Everywhere for every patrol unit in the amount of $104,450 from the opioid fund. I get a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then we're gonna, on number 16, I think we wanted to speak to James about the approval to change position of assessment specialist / rural addresser to field appraiser.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
James Bowman, Otero County Assessor. And as always, I have literature for you. And this is the right literature this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned last week during the budget session, I'm trying to find a way to help combat with some of the loss that we are going to take in revenue collected from the exemptions that are being placed with the new laws that have been passed. The paperwork that I just gave you there is just kind of like a quick little snapshot of what we collected on the 229 partially disabled veterans that we have as of April 1st, 2026. In 2025, we had collected on $366,055, and we're estimated to be collecting on $111,200. Give or take this coming year based on the exemptions that are coming in. Pretty much every day we are getting more and more veterans that are coming in to get their disability paperwork turned in. One thing that was kind of, in my mind, a blessing in disguise a little bit is we went back to, it was passed for us to put a deadline for exemptions for veterans. For the last 2 years, we were taking 100% disabled veterans, those applications throughout the entire year. So whenever we go and certify our numbers, we'd have to kind of readjust because we would have, X amount of people come in and get those submitted to our office. But they did put it back in law to where it now has a deadline of the end of our notice of value rendition time, which will be May 1st. which kind of helps us out because we could still take in the applications, but we just explained to the veterans that it would take place for the following tax year. So that does kind of help us slow down for that. But the thing that I'm looking in is I recently had one of my employees moved over to dispatch for addressing purposes. And then we filled our longtime standing appraiser, Sheldon Compton, who retired. We did fill his position with the new worker who was going to be taking over his responsibilities that he had. But what we are facing right now is we have an ability to try to kind of help with some of this loss, which is picking up new structures to the county. We have our program where we do run our permits, and we have anything that's pulled within the county, we get permits for that a contractor actually pulls a permit for. We will get that information, and we go out and we do our due diligence to pick up those structures. However, with our aerial system with Eagle View, we have Amber. She's going through and she looks at certain areas to comb through to find out what areas are producing new structures that might not have had permits pulled for them. And it happens quite a bit. We currently, well, at the time when we started looking at this report, we had 94 structures requests to be picked up. As of then, today we have 123 more structures that we have discovered. We just do not have the actual time or manpower to actually go get these structures, which in my mind are kind of bonus structures. They can range from anything. It can be from, I've seen, storage sheds that you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot, an 8x10 storage shed, to entire 2-story homes that are built without permits being pulled and things like that. So with the ability of actually bringing in another person, I would be able to kind of dedicate that person to doing solely this on top of the other work that we have to have done by the state for, ownership changes, the permits and things like that. And then having this would actually kind of help us take a little bit less of a hit because we could actually pick up structures and add them to the tax rolls and hopefully combat some of that loss that we are going to be feeling. So that's my request, is just to try to see if I can, I know originally we were saying change the position of assessment specialist, but it's really me just asking for a new appraiser so I can actually help hopefully kind of suffer or lessen some of the suffering of the loss that we're going to see in the revenue collected.
So this isn't actually replacing somebody, this is adding a new position?
It would be adding a new position. So, and what I had done is in our budget, I kind of kept the overall budget for that employee that we had, because I lost that employee January 1 of this year, and that employee's salary was higher than what a new employee I would be bringing in is by almost $15,000. So again, I still feel like I would be helping produce, but also kind of saving from the salary that we were paying on for the employee that we lost.
So you already have this in your budget?
Technically, yes, I left everything in the budget as is as if I had that one worker that was moved.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. I know a lot of people are a little bit confused on the veterans exemptions. The standard deduction went from $4,000 to $10,000, so that was a hit.
Yes, ma'am.
And then now you can actually stack veterans benefits. So if you have a husband that's 60% disabled and the wife that's 40, now all of a sudden that becomes 100%. Correct?
Yes and no. That's actually it's actually an interesting thing that we're still kind of going through. But yes, and in essence, what happened in the past was, yes, you're correct with the $4,000 to $10,000. That is just your standard veterans exemption. In the past, you only were able to get exemption if you were at 100%. But the law that was passed is now if you have 10%, 20%, all those are now accumulating into the office. And to answer your question about the husband and wife thing, it's interesting because what my office has to actually do is we have to kind of do research to see how it is written on the deed, and based off of that, the 60 plus the 40 could equal your 100, or we have to also look at it if it's like, okay, if the couple has a 50-50 stake in the property, basically. We have to figure out, okay, this 50% belongs to person A, this 50% belongs to person B, and based off the percentages, we deduct off of that, which is the infuriating way, because it's a lot of moving pieces, and then of course we have to deal with well, we don't understand, and so it's a little bit tricky, but yes, in essence, that's kind of the basis that we're going off of. It could equal to 100%, so then now that's full exemption for that property. So it's a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of training on it. My office, we're ready for it. I think some other counties are kind of stressing about it, but I have a great staff, so we're ready for it, and we've been doing really well with it. Again, we're seeing what we're going to be losing for sure. And the other thing that we can also see too is, when it gets voted on, it gets passed, I would not be surprised if we're looking at that 4,000 to 10,000 becoming 12,000, 14,000 within the next couple of years. Who knows? But again, just trying to help keep up with that and bring in as much revenue as we can. That's what we're trying to help out with the best we can.
And I don't think what people understand either is there's a certain mill rate that we have, and if we have all these veterans deductions, it could possibly start raising everybody else's property taxes to level that out. Am I correct?
That's correct. And again, for what we always do, like right now, we're in the middle of our rendition time. We try to make sure that everybody understands the process of these things, and we go through and we explain. I think what we do a lot right now during this time is we explain how, why, when the evaluations are the way they are. And I try to be fair and consistent with everybody. So, like, heck, when I built my own little storage shed in my backyard, I won't lie, I didn't pull a permit. I asked my deputy, hey, you know what you're doing, can you come help me so I don't have to redo this later? And as soon as I was done, I took pictures of it, I gave it to my appraiser, I said, hey, add it to my property, please. So again, we know it's the best thing is just, again, to be fair and consistent, and the way that we can do that is we pick up the structures as we can. It's just, in my mind, it's actually better than me asking you guys for, hey, I need consistent approval for overtime, every month, and who knows, that could turn into a completely higher cost than, in my mind, bringing someone in that can actually solely work on this alone. And even with that, I could honestly say it would probably still be where this number right now, like I said, it's at 217 as of today. It's going to grow. We kind of, on average, we're seeing about 40 new structures per month. So to be completely honest, would we be able to catch every single one of them by the end of the year? Probably not. But I do feel like we can get to a good at least 75, 80% of it before the end of the year, which would, again, in turn help our county with collecting more revenue for the losses. So, and the other thing that we're doing too, we just got done with our in-person audit last week. One thing that we are doing is anybody that applies for like low-income freezes or veterans exemptions like this, I do send out the appraisers that are in that appropriate area to go find out exactly what's on their property at this current time. So, if they did actually add a storage shed and we haven't visited their property in like the last 2 years, we know, hey, we're going to add the storage shed, add it to the tax rolls, then we're going to exempt from there, or we're going to freeze your property from there, which my auditor actually took as the best practice, as she's saying the rest of the state should be doing that too, because it just makes more sense to know what you have and then you're stopping it there. So, someone might have a freeze on their property and then they got away with having like a $30,000 detached storage that was put on their property. So, we're trying to do our due diligence again to just try to be fair, consistent, and as accurate as we can.
So in 2025, and I was saving this question for the end, but because this paper you gave us, in 2025, legislation passed that you changed the valuation amount from 1/3 taxable value to 40% taxable value. I just assumed that went into effect July 1st of 2025, but has it not gone into effect?
No, we still, your taxable value is still 1/3 of your actual taxable value. So what we do is you take your assessed value, and then it's 1/3 of that. And then based off of that number that you get, you're gonna use the tax rate that is gonna be given to us in October to actually find out what your taxes is. So it's still 1/3. The
So-
40% is not.
Does that bill go into effect then July of this year?
I am honestly not aware of a 40% change. I know I heard that before, but that is not something that we have actually had discussed that I've talked to with anybody in my affiliate. I'd have to look into that because someone asked me about that before. I think Ricardo was actually talking to me about it because I think at one of the meetings he sat in for me, I think was asked that question, and we were talking about it, and I forget what it was that we were thinking that it was actually alluding to, but it's not the actual tax rate. Because so if you just got your notice of value, which everybody should have by now, you'll see on there it's still 1/3 of your assessed value.
Okay, I'm gonna find that bill and see when it.
Yeah,
actually goes
if you
into
find it,
effect.
send it to me, and if I can make some clarification on that for you, I will, because there was a lot that went through this past 2 years, and I don't recall that being one, because that would have been a hot topic for us on our affiliate meetings, for sure.
Yeah, the assessors took a lot of heat for this veteran stuff. And it was just like a lot of other things, the bill passed when we voted on it to give this veterans exemption, and everybody wants to do that. They didn't understand the downwind implications of what this was gonna cost.
Yeah, it was a rough time for us because it was kind of like, I love supporting veterans too and everything like that, and it was kind of like, it was almost like a grenade. It was like, hey, it's passed, and it was like, hey, here you go, figure it out. And we were scrambling to try to figure it out. I mean, it was a lot of training for our camera systems that we have, and again, just going forward with trying to figure out how we're going to do all these things. But I think, again, we have a good grasp on it, and it's here to stay. So I mean, we just got to kind of adjust accordingly. So.
All right, is that it? All right, thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Commissioners, if you could change that motion, please.
Okay.
To request approval to create a position of field appraiser in the county assessor's office.
And the title's still the same, the assessment specialist?
No, cross assessment specialist role addresser off and just say create the position of field appraiser.
Oh, field,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
All right, I make a motion to approve the change. Or no, not the change, let me change that. To create a position of field appraiser.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, we're gonna move on to our schedules, citizen communication. Kathy Marrero would like to discuss the assessment of tree thinning, mastication, and slash removal on Dry Canyon Road, and focus on verifying compliance with the county contract and inspection of requirements.
Did Tom leave?
He may be in Cassie's office. Let me go check.
Could you state your
Morning.
name in the microphone, please?
Hi, my name is Kathleen Marrero, and I'm here to discuss the James Canyon Community at Risk Road Project, and anyone can look at the website at drycanyonroad.com. So this was a project that was meant to reduce fuels in the area to prevent fires from spreading, and so I'm going to show you my observations in the area to show that it fell extremely far short of any of the expectations that were set in the documentation. So if you go to the work plan objectives, then those were the stated objectives. A little bit up. Well, you can go there, fine. So that's what's on your table as a handout. So the stated objectives involve slash treatment and reducing fuel loads. And so I will show using videos that, so the objective, masticate the slash and reduce hazardous fuels throughout the treated area. Then I'll show you that that was not even close to being done. Logs on site, then the work plan stated that no logs would be left after the thinning operations. Then I will show that that's not true. Hazard tree removal, again, they fell far short on what they marked based on what was actually removed. Slash depth, then they mentioned that it has to be within the recommended limits and fell short. Basal area calculation, again, falling short, and treatment area falling way short. And so that's what I'm going to go over. So if you go to section number 1, which is / treatment and fuels, then they were going to reduce the hazardous fuels. Please play video 1 right now, and you can get an idea of what this area looks like. So trees were just cut down, left in place, and large piles of slash left everywhere. So you can see the road is right there. So there's a road, there's a right-of-way, and that's all marked by the EMNDR foresters for the boundaries between the row, is what they call it, the right-of-way, and the public land. So this is what the private property owners are going to see in front of their house. Please play video 2. That's a really short video. Another one where it just shows massive piles of slash. You know, some of that, like that big thing isn't cut, but you can see. Oops. Then there is just piles everywhere that are going to, the green is going to dry to brown and cause problems. So I would say that the EMNDR foresters are who ran this program that was signed by Otero County as a fuel reduction. Then they did not reduce the fuels, maybe they reduced the crown fuels. However, there is a lot of piles of slash and brush and trees on the ground. So they did not reduce fuel loads, maybe crown loads is all. Next, logs on site, go down, and you can look at more videos if you'd like to, they're all there. Logs on site, mastication and log treatment, just scroll through those images, and they were going to, the work plan objectives specifically stated no logs will remain on site, and if you just look, everywhere you look, just keep scrolling, piled up slash logs everywhere, nothing masticated. You previously discussed masticators, and a masticator is going to reduce these fuel loads without removing it. And so it kind of chips it in place, but you can see that that was not done to any recommended degree.
Ma'am, can I ask questions before you go any further? Is this on private property or forest?
This is all on county right-of-way property, every single picture there. And this was after the treatment, so they spent $66,000 treating this area to reduce the fire hazards, and I don't think that they succeeded. So the next, so if you go down to 3, hazard tree removal, then it's hard to see from back here, but what the EMNRD foresters did, came in, they marked all these hazard trees with green or red paint for removal. You know, again, hazard trees, so they did not remove all the trees marked. There's areas where there's I counted 15 trees in a row marked, and they were not removed. They're just still standing there. There's a dead tree. If you look at tree 3, then that was the tree to start the row project, and they didn't even cut it down after it fell on a barn, and the county is paying a claim based on that tree. So not removing hazard trees. Next, slash depth. So according to the inspection forms, the slash depth of 1.75 inches, that's this much, 1.75 inches, well below 4 inches as required by the state of New Mexico forest practices. Then if you scroll up a little bit, then you can see these measurements, or scroll down, I guess I always get confused. So scroll through those, then I measured slash piles all over the place. 22 inches, 16 inches, 18 inches. Then there is, I guess if you measure nothing, then with these, then you'll eventually get to a 1.75 slash depth. And I also want to mention that the 1.75 slash depth was based on 2 measurements in the entire 22-acre treatment area, and that's ridiculous. 22 acres is roughly 1 million square feet of area, and they're going to take 2 measurements and call it done and say that we reached this objective successfully. That is false. Next, go up to basal area. So basal area, I'm not a forester, I can't tell you how to calculate that, but I am a statistician, and I can tell you that they are, based on their measurements in the inspections, then it does not make sense where they came up with, they magically met the objective, which was between 40 and 60 square feet per acre for their target area. Then they gave 6 measurements. 4 of the acres was just completely clear cut and does not represent the entire project, but based on their 6 measurements, then they just magically said that it is within this project specifications. Well, if you actually do the calculations that any statistician or qualified person would do, then based on those 6 measures, then they did not reach the targeted basal area. It would be 67 square feet per area based on their own measurements and calculated correctly. So it would probably actually be higher, because out of those 22 acres, then I will show you next, in the treatment area, that 7 acres was not even touched. So here's the treatment area, then all the green is the treatment area. So basically Dry Canyon, that's a long road, then that was to be treated, and there's evidence there that work has taken place. However, if you look at those side roads, which are blown up in the enlarged area, then Eagle Crest, then the EMNRD, then there was nothing even marked, a couple of green markers to show the thinner where to cut, and you couldn't even really see that. And the work that was completed, it looked like they took 5 minutes to cut a couple trees down that were very small and just left the brush and slash there. Eagle Loop 1, then that's, if you go there, then there's a little bit of markers just slightly off the side, large numbers of green marked trees just still standing. Again, the green and red trees that are marked are the ones that were marked a hazard and should be cut down. So nothing cut, everything's still standing, and treatment boundaries were marked. Eagle Loop 2, there was nothing even marked and no visible treatment. The same with Meadowview Glen, no green boundary markers and no treatment has taken place. And Dry Canyon, then out of the 22 acres, then I did the calculation based on the plats that said it was 100 feet wide for the right-of-way and the length based on Google Maps, 1.6 miles. Then that gives you an estimate of 15 acres, so that other 7 acres not even treated, and out of that 15 acres, then you can see that that's also a joke, because if you walk along that entire 1.6 mile stretch, then you'll see arrows like don't cut here, then start cutting here. So a significant portion of that is left out, so that's going to decrease the acreage. And the 78 feet, then the 15 acres would assume you have 78 feet throughout that entire 1.6 mile corridor. However, if you walk through it and sample, then here there's 0 right-of-way. Here, 5 feet, 30 feet, maybe 170, I found a 75 feet. So if you actually look at what's treated, then the 78 is also a gross overestimate. And so overall, then, if you actually went out there and sampled the depth or the width, then you would probably find out that the actual treated area is more like 8 to 10 acres, so substantially below the 22 acres that they're claiming is treated. And so, though all of those were the measurable objectives as stated in the work plan requirements that the county signed and that EMNRD was supposed to follow through with. So next, if you go up again, then in addition to those things, then there was a recent article in the Cloudcroft Reader that was discussing the beetle infestation, and it was mentioned that when cutting trees, generating slash, immediately remove it, burn it, chip it. Untreated slash is going to attract beetles, serve as breeding grounds. Don't leave the trees longer than 30 days. And so these EMNRDs that are saying this, then they just put out all that out the window, left everything. So in addition to having a fire danger, then we also have a biohazard danger, and we have now conditions that are going to increase. The beetles, bark beetles in the area threaten the surrounding forest and private property. And so the conditions are not only an increased fire risk, but then now we have increased beetle risk. So in summary, then the project based on my observations, was a complete failure. They did not reach any objective that was set forth. And they're leaving the cleanup based on let the landowners clean it up, and they say that there's no more money. I did reach out several times, and only this morning did I get a response from the EMNRD saying that the project was going to reduce the fire hazards, and all hazardous fuel management has some component of woody material remaining on site. They were unable to pay for the transport of fuel treatment of material off the site, and they have no money to do anything more on this project. Well, we never said remove it. In the paperwork itself, it said that it was going to be masticated. So masticated is kind of like chipping, but they just crush stuff up on the ground to reduce the fire hazard, and that was not done anywhere. If you look at a couple places, then there's some trees with a little bit of something shaved off the top, and yay, that's masticated. No, it is not. Mastication is going to, someone, I think Vicki was saying how great it is. They can chip it all up right there and reduce the fire hazards. So the mastication that was supposed to take place, and I even saw this little masticator, it was parked in my front yard for some time, then they did not get their masticators out and do any significant work, just leaving a complete fire hazard and a biohazard with the beetles. And so anyway, it's not like there's going to be more money later on to clean this up. You know, it's probably never been cleaned and probably won't be cleaned again, and they fell far short. So I don't think that, so this one-time opportunity was completely botched and was not done correctly. So anyway, I am here to ask the commission, then what actions are you going to take to ensure that the work plan is completed and fully completed, because it has not been, and it's leaving this community at risk is what their name, then we are still at risk. And so I would like you to consider how this is going to be mitigated to remove the fire risk and to clean up this absolute disaster mess, as you could see from the pictures. And also, there's a fire restrictions right now, as we already talked about. So this early in the season, then we have a mess of slash everywhere that can just easily go up in smoke, and it's barely, and that was March, the fire restrictions came into place, and usually it's much later. And so it's very concerning that we have these drought and horrible conditions already with all of this fuel on the ground. And number two, then the project also highlights gaps in project planning, oversight, inspection. I mean, the inspections are completely worthless from a statistical point of view. You know, taking 2 measurements out of 1 million acres and areas that don't even represent the whole treatment area, then they're going to take measurements from there and apply it to the entire 22, which was really more like 8 acres. So I urged the commission to inspect protocols and oversight practices for future projects so that this does not occur. You know, even in the paperwork, then it specifically says you have to inspect and do all these things and GPS coordinates. The 2 inspections had the same GPS coordinates, and so the inspections are completely inadequate, and as was the project oversight. So I would like planned actions and remediation and steps to ensure compliance on this project before something horrible happens for the Dry Canyon, which is also an emergency road. If something happened on 82, then what's going to happen if Dry Canyon is also on fire. And those were my concerns that I wanted to present. And if you are interested, you could go to the website and look at anything in more detail and look at those pictures. And there's the people involved.
And Commissioners, if I may, the district forester who oversaw this project is on Teams. I don't know if he would like to speak, but he is listening in.
Okay, yeah. Is it Nick?
Yes.
Okay.
I just basically wanted to say I'm glad I was able to join. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties, but I'm hearing the concerns, and obviously there's definitely a disconnect between what was presented and what was what the Ms. Moreno sees, and so we want to make sure that we make those two closer together. But I am concerned that, many of our, if I should say all of our projects have some level of material left behind on site, because there just isn't any facilities that take all material, even when we have full attempt to do as much removal as we can, there's always material left behind. So in this case, maybe just more than what was anticipated by Ms. Moreno, and we can have discussions further on site to take a look at what is there and what we could possibly do. But again, it would all be speculative at the moment until I can acquire additional funding in some mean or manner. So we'll have to have conversations about that. But as it is right now, I feel like even though, yes, we are in high fire danger, we're in high fire danger even in unthinned areas because of the density. And so what we attempted to do was remove as much fuel from that continuous fuel ladder that was existing before any treatment was done. And I stand by my statement that we have actually changed the fire severity and what would happen if that were to burn. Fuel on the ground is never going to burn to the severity of fuels that are standing. So, but I stand for any questions.
So everything in the work contract was stipulated, no logs, exactly what this lady has explained to us, correct? Everything that she's complaining about was in the contract to be done?
What was in the contract to be done was to remove trees, cut them down, and to have the material masticated was the ideal that we'd like to reach. But there was some areas that were physically not possible to do with the equipment based on the slope and rockiness. So we did the next best thing we could do, which was lop and scatter the material to a length that some people could haul out firewood, or it was just close enough to the ground to where, again, if it were to catch fire, flame lengths would be short enough that we could suppress that, as opposed to up in the canopy of the trees. So, yes, there's still a slash, but whether you churn it up in a masticator or chip it or whatever, it's still the same amount of material that would be there. So the density of trees that were cut is adequate and meets the prescription, and the material will be there in one form or another.
And
So
may I
Nick,
say-
the agreement makes some very specific parameters for and metrics for the completion of the project that Ms. Marujo has pointed out. So my question would be, is this a standard agreement that the forestry puts out for these type of projects? And is there anything in the agreement because I don't have it in front of me, that has contingencies for the types of situations that you're, you could put something on paper, and that is in a perfect special flat force that is not going to present any challenges, and you can put very specific parameters that need to be met. But in real world conditions, no plan is going to be perfectly executed, because Mother Nature and terrain, all that stuff gets a vote. How does forestry handle that? And have you had concerns like this brought up in other projects?
We've encountered similar issues, like I mentioned, the slope and rock with mastication, and we had to adjust the prescription to allow for that. Otherwise, we would just leave certain areas untreated, which doesn't, the consistency, the linear path that we were trying to follow, we wanted to treat that as much as possible. So we do need to make modifications sometimes in progress in order to still achieve the overall objective of fuels modification. So it doesn't, like you, as you mentioned, there's the perfect world scenario where everything's flat and accessible, and then there's what you run into. So yes, we've had this happen on other projects as well.
And I would like to say that all of this is based on a records request, and you can read all of the signed papers on the website. There's a link, and it even says that any changes require a written amendment to the work plan. So there was no written amendment. Actually, there was one amendment. So they had their specific measurable outcomes that they were required to follow, and they did have some fuel reduction practices that the tree thinning contractor was supposed to follow. So they did have an amendment to the work plan, but the only thing changing was the amount, and it changed mechanical thinning and hand thinning to something else. You can read it in there, but it specifically stated that you have to follow this work plan, and if you're going to change it, then it has to be in writing and agreed to, and that was never done. And so the measurable objectives were not met. They didn't even try to change them. They just ignored them, didn't even treat large areas, and then left everything there. And I never again expected it to be removed, but you mentioned mastication, and this is right along a road. It's a big road that is paved. Then you can bring equipment in there. You can chip it if it can't be masticated. If you can scatter it around, then you can scatter it to the chipper and to reduce those fuels on the ground. And so again, if you want to see all of the official paperwork, then it's right there. You can link on the website to read it, to see what was agreed to, and that it was not at all followed, and it needs to be fixed. It's not okay.
So, one more question for the forester. This was a contract job, correct? It was contracted out. Was it contracted through the Forest Service? Through you?
It was contracted through the county.
So wouldn't we have had a performance bond? If the job was not completed as per requested, and he's trying to look for additional funding, right there's your additional funding, you go to his performance bond.
I don't know about a performance bond on a contract this small. That's not my area. We contracted as the fiscal agent. The inspections and the work plan were developed by ENMRD.
I mean, it's $40,000 deal. I can't imagine. I mean, everything that we do has.
And the contractor was paid, and I only released payment once I received notice from them that the work had been completed.
Right, so he's fully paid, even though 7 acres not even touched, and questionable whether the additional 15 acres was actually 15 acres. And So it was not done to your own specifications.
And you could see where it was signed off by the Forest Department as a completed job.
Yes. And the only objective that they did do was to remove merchantable trees. So the guy came in, cut down trees, took them because he can make money off of them, and then everything else just left on the ground and hardly any slash treatment.
Do you know who the contractor was?
Got Wood, Mr. James Harper.
Wondering if Redoso's still doing that biofuels plant? Do you anything? They're still
I
doing
haven't
it?
heard anything.
And I don't know how we'd get this stuff up there. I'm gonna ask Mark Fisher if they're still.
We'll talk later on.
Anyway, I would appreciate
So
if there was a
is-
follow-up.
Is it the marked trees that were not removed? Is that typical too?
I'm not sure if he can.
I'm sorry, was that directed to?
Yes, sir, sorry, for Smokovich, Mr. Smokovich?
Yes.
The marked trees that were not removed, is that typical?
So some of I apologize, I wasn't there to see all the photographs, but I mean, some of the larger trees that we did have initially marked in order to take out when it was actually sized up to figure out if we could actually bring them down safely without damaging any infrastructure like the power lines or fence line and things like that. We realized that this could not be dropped safely, so they were, slash was placed through the mark to say that it was cleared. And we were actually drove that not only with myself and my project forester, but that we was looked at by the county and determined that it would be something that would need to have to do above and beyond a typical thinning treatment, where we would have to have the power company come in and use a bucket truck or a climber to remove that material because it was beyond the ability for us to safely bring it down.
Is there a power line over that?
There's power lines throughout, and I did contact the electric co-op to get their take, and they actually inspected the area yesterday, and they said that they 100% agree with my assessment that there is way too many fuels on the ground, and it was not cleaned up to an acceptable level. And I can give you that contact if you'd like to speak with him.
Yes,
And I asked them to reach out, and I gave the person Nick's contact, and I think, Vicki, are you the commissioner over Cloudcroft area, and your name, and then one other name, maybe Pamela. So I did ask them to ask that person to please reach out to voice their concerns with the finished product, because there was also another article that was saying that one little spark, then the electric co-op could be held responsible even though these fuels were left on the ground by this project. Then that was another article in a recent, actually 2 articles, if you look at their enchantment. So they 100% agreed that it was not completed to standards.
Can you provide the name of the person that you talked to at the Otero Electric?
Yes, I can do it right now. Jansen Davis is the person, and he is in charge of the vegetation management for, he's the vegetation management supervisor for Otero County Electric, and Jansen, Janscen, J. Davis is the name of the person, and he did go through yesterday at my request to look at the Dry Canyon area.
Thank you.
And Mark Fisher said Lincoln County's waiting for that plant for they're not doing the biofuels yet.
So a few things stick out to me. If it's not in the agreement, it needs to be clear that metrics may not be attainable, like, and if they're not, this will happen or that will happen, because putting very specific metrics then that can't be met, it's not managing expectations. And another aspect of these is it would be beneficial to communicate this information ahead of time to the residents that are in the impacted area, and to, again, manage their expectations and not say, it's going to be to this degree and then not meet that. Because then, someone's going to point to it and say, well, it says this, but that's not what we got. And the reality of the situation is it's not economically viable to do these projects to the extent that it might have necessarily been written in there, because the amount of labor and work required and the funding available is not going to align. And anyone that is answering these contracts is doing it to make money, and unless additional funding is there to match that, it's not viable. And the alternative solutions, so to speak, are, there's a lot of firewood that's there that is unclaimed, and that people could go get if they wanted or needed firewood. That's one way to get a lot of that, some of that material out of there. I always never get their acronym right. The R&D Council has a mobile incinerator that can be brought to these sites, but that requires funding, and it also requires labor to get the materials from the ground to the incinerator. And that's either volunteers, and that would require training, but volunteering and doing that is an option. Volunteers could also remove the materials and take them to the county slash pit. That's an option. But the big picture reality on the ground is the amount of combustible materials and organic materials in the forest is massive, and on a scale that cannot economically be removed, because it's been neglected for decades and allowed to accumulate. And it's a significant problem, but the funding to meet it is not there. It comes on the back end when disaster already occurs, such as in Lincoln County, where massive forest fire and everything from that, and then the floods that come, and we're spending millions and billions to react to that. Arguably, it would be prudent public policy to commit those funds on the front end and deal with this massive accumulation of organic matter, that combustible matter. But we're not getting that, and we need to push for that. And there needs to be places for it to go, and hopefully that biomass thing in Lincoln County gets going, but our slash pit cannot deal with this amount of stuff, and then there's not the labor to do it. But it is an issue that needs to be looked at with solutions. I don't know that we have county resources. I know that we don't have county resources to go gather the material and haul it to the slash pit, probably, but it is a option. The other one is, again, making people aware that there's firewood available.
As far as the firewood, then the contractor did put something on Facebook about firewood, and what all of the neighbors I spoke to were concerned with is that the boundary between the right-of-way and the public or the private property is not really clear in these areas, and people are coming on to their private property to get this wood, and I mean, to me, that's not really an acceptable thing when you're in a residential area. Then, oh, let everyone come and get some firewood from Kathleen's front yard because we left it there for you to take. Then that really does not seem like an adequate solution to this problem at all.
And I don't know if it would be possible for the county to go up and do some of the removal. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if that's,
I don't know the amount of, I mean, our crews have full-time schedules, and so it would be taking away from that. I mean, I'd rather go do that than deal with the AG and some of this other crap.
yeah, I'm sure you would.
That's not a viable option either.
Having our incarcerated go up there and help clean it and pull it, or community services assigned to that.
It's the challenge that we have with the trash too. It's the logistics of transport and supervision.
Which, I mean, those big chippers, they take, my understanding is you could take at least a 9 or 10 inch, and some of them even an 18-inch tree. So, I mean, why wasn't it chipped along the road, or could it be to reduce some of that fuel? Or had the mastication actually taken place by the paid contractor who was paid to do the job and was completely paid in full when the work was not completed?
How come his bid says 54,000 and this had a 39,000 or $40,000 price tag on it?
It was $66,000.
They amended it. If I recall, Nick, didn't the funding amount get amended?
Yes. So initially it was 39,900, and then it was amended later to be 66,000. So that was the single amendment to the work plan, was to change the price tag, basically.
So RB, you do a site visit on these when you go up and bid these log deals. So you can't tell me you didn't know if you couldn't masticate it, if you couldn't get it, if the trees were too close to the power lines. It should have all been brought up before it ever went to a bid then.
You're talking about the bidder?
Contractor.
Yeah, yes.
And I believe, Nick, did Mr. Harper not go and review the site before to make sure he could do the job? If I recall, he did.
Mr. Harper, the contractor, reviewed the
Yes.
site?
Yeah, prior to contracting, to know he could
Oh,
perform.
prior to taking the
Yeah.
job? Yes, he did see the right of way.
Yeah. Check with Wendy, but I guarantee you we got a performance bond. They ain't gonna give you that kind of money without it.
I'd have to check with Wendy. She's not here this week. She's at conference.
Okay. All I can say is let us discuss it and we'll see what we can get done.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, Pastor Anthony Torres.
Good morning, good afternoon, commissioners.
Yeah.
Bless everybody, hope everybody is well. For 10 years, Mount View Church has done its best to be a church about the community. We do our best to model what the Bible says when Jesus said, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was naked, you clothed me. And when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. Every year, Since 2015, when the cold temperatures freeze, we have opened up our church to get those off the streets, to provide them a warm place to sleep and a warm meal. In the beginning, we saw maybe 5 to 12 people that would stay. Now, 2026, 2025, last year, we saw a spike in the need for 20 to 35 people that were staying at our church during the winter. Since 2020, Mountain View Church has opened up our doors to provide free funeral services to the community, provided with a free meal catered to the families. They do not have to be a member, a tither, or an attender of Mountain View Church. This has been a service that we have provided for those in need, because during COVID, people were basically, we couldn't have they couldn't have public services. So we decided as a church to open up, and since then we have been doing that. This month, starting tomorrow, we have 5 funerals that we're doing at the church, and these people are not a part of our congregation or tithers or attenders, but this is a service that we provide for the community. There have been times Mountain View Church has been on alert for providing emergency shelter for the city, and when Ruidoso fires happened, our church opened and we provided for 329 families, 1,523 people, and 16 to 25 people that stayed for shelter. In 2015, my wife and I moved to Alamogordo for purpose and vision, to build a church about the community. Church is not who we are. In my heart, I believe it's what we do. The reality is, one day I won't be the pastor anymore of Mountain View Church due to death, retirement, or God moving us to a different task. But our prayer is that all the outreaches that we do yearly will continue. And now we venture onto a new project that will stay in this town forever, Mountain View Dream Center. With this center, we will continue to provide services that the city needs with the homeless. Now we will just be able to up our services, provided with showers, laundry room, and if winter comes, we will provide overnight shelter to have room for the people. This will also allow us to continue to do free funerals to the public if they need a bigger space to meet. The Dream Center will also be an emergency shelter in case of crisis or disaster relief in the city. If we had this center when the fires came, we would have used this space then. This center will be available to the city and the county when needed to meet the needs of the people during crisis or disaster relief, for cots, room for cots, showers, and a place for people. But last but not least, my favorite part, since the Dream Center will have a built commercial kitchen, we will be a soup kitchen serving dinner from 4 to 6:30 p.m. for free meal to the community, to those in need, Monday through Friday. Today we are coming to the county not for money, but for support, and maybe steered in the right direction for grant writers to help us with funding. For 10 years, the tithers of Mountain View Church have carried this vision of being everything we have mentioned in this letter. We get to open to the community when need to, because we have a church that supports what they believe in. Today I stand in front of you, if you will believe with us, that the county and the city and the great people of Alamogordo are really serious about doing something for this town to address the homelessness, the poverty of families, not being able to eat during rough times, or even a place a city can come if needed. This Dream Center, by God's grace, could be built by the end of the summer and could be in full operation serving the people of Alamogordo if we can come together and make this a reality. I want to thank you just for allowing me to share my heart and dreams for the people of Alamogordo. I have the mission statement here. The mission statement exists to serve our community by feeding the hungry, offering a safe daytime shelter with access to showers and laundry, and providing emergency crisis relief, restoring dignity, renewing hope to restore every life we serve. Operations will be Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. We will have paid staff, a director of operations, full-time chef, and 2 care workers to see that this will continue to run. Now we get into the big part. The building construction budget at approximately $305 per square foot for a building around 6,500 square feet is approximately 1 acre on a 1 acre site. It came out to 1.9 million. That estimate does not include the building from the ground up. This estimate does include the building from the ground up, along with basic parking lot and typical over excavation site preparation requirements, nothing out of the ordinary extreme.
It also assumes basic commercial finishes, which would be controlled by White Sands Construction during the design process to help the project within budget. So you can see here, that would be the entranceway. You have the men's restroom, the women's restroom, built-in showers. You have the office area. You also have a laundry room that will be right by the office. Then you go into the kitchen there to the left on the bottom there, and then you have a conference room, and then you have that big space right there that obviously we would be feeding. That's a place we could put cots if needed. And then I think there's another picture of where the sites where it's going to be at. So you can see that there is our church on the corner, and we own all that property there. And so that is where the building would be placed at. I understand that my life is in the public eye, and everything I say, everything I do, what I wear, what I drive, and I've had to get used to that over the years. It's been hard for me, if I could be honest with you. If it was up to me, I'd be in California surfing, growing my hair out and writing books, and never have social media ever again. But this is where I'm at. This is the reality of my life. So I understand that, you know, we had this property out there that we were looking to make a rehab center. And I'm a firm believer that eventually God will tell you, no, that's not what I want right now. And so, you know, we tried. You know, I had a company from El Paso try to come in. They couldn't cross license, and from Texas to New Mexico. You know, we were in talks with Lamar Odom and his camp to possibly come out here and do something. They brought people out here, and it was going to cost more money to get where we needed to be. And then finally we decided to sell it, and we were going to use the money to hopefully move in town somewhere where we can get a building that was more operable. But the guy that was helping me sell it passed away, and someone or something happened where it caught fire, and we didn't have insurance. So we had to take a loss, and we had to sell it as is. And so little money that we have now, which is not a lot, I think it was like $52K that we sold it for. We have that in account to where hopefully we can purchase a home that's foreclosure, or we were thinking about making our church, there's a little wing that we have in the back. We were thinking about making that a place where we can rehab people, men, for free. So we still have high hopes of doing that, but it's not going to be the bigger scale that I was looking for the rehab center in addressing mental health. And I say all that, you know, because this project here won't be like the project out there, you know, and so we're still working on the project out there as far as the things that we want to do is going to be on a smaller scale. This project here will basically be from the ground up, and obviously we have the property to do it, and in dreams of doing it. And so we just wanted to bring it in front of the county. I have a meeting with the mayor on Monday. She actually called me last week, and I just thought it was perfect timing. And so I'll be meeting with her next Monday and hopefully come in front of the city to present this as well. But that's the reason for just being here today, just to bring it to you guys' attention, and hopefully somebody can help us with grant writing or steer us in the right direction somewhere where we can hopefully make this a reality.
We, of course, can't provide direct services to the public for grant writing, but I can have him search grants and provide information on any leads we get or where to start. Or some possible free grant writing that somewhere in the community is done.
And ones where the county would be the eligible entity, and then perhaps I don't know if there's Mountain View or if there's another nonprofit entity that is spearheading, but whatever that entity is, could be the sub-component. So Pablo could do a search to see if there's any grants like that. What I will say, pastors, I truly appreciate what you're doing, and I love your timeline. The timeline's not congruent with grants and government assistance. We'll still look and see what we can find, but before you get money to do anything physical, you first have to get a grant to do planning and design, because why would we skip that step?
So we've kind of already done that. with the Behavioral Health Committee and our public assessments that we've done within the 12th Judicial District, we've already done the planning, we already see the needs assessments, we already know which direction we need to go. So I think that might be the committee that can be the one that because we have AOC on that, it's all judicial. And so what we're doing out there, the proposal for the grant that we just requested for the Recovery Center, we also have more funding allocated, obviously for the Recovery Center, but this last legislation passed a ridiculous amount of money that has not yet been distributed by judicial district, but will be. And those grant applications are exactly targeted for doing what he is requesting. So if I can take the lead on this and maybe sit in with your meeting on Monday with the mayor, just let me know when, so I can tell you what we are doing and what the assessment, that planning assessment that we've already done, the evaluation, because this meets the scope that we're not addressing with the Recovery Center. And I actually have a broader thing to add to your this right here, and have some suggestions to be able to meet the needs of what those public assessments have, the planning. So that's already been done. We spent $75,000 doing that, so that groundwork is done, so we don't need to worry. It won't get done this summer. I've been working on this, as you know, for 4 years. But especially when they're, this ridiculous amount of money, I bet it's going to take a year for them to even allocate it. So, but it's there. And I need to get you on that committee so that you can be there to talk about the needs, the allocation, and the grant applications. So please reach out to me Monday, what time it is. I would love to be a part of that. I need to fill you in with what we've got going on, what we've applied for, and I need to get you a book. We toured the Kamala's house last year or 2 years ago. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's in Miami-Dade in Florida. They had 8,000 homeless people in the streets when they started this. They have 1,000 homeless people on the streets now, and that's the people that don't want to have services. And their facility, I don't think it's something that we could bring here, but if we bring in even 25% of what they do into your facility and idea, I think it would be just amazing. So
Yeah, I think the reality of ever having a full function homeless shelter here, I think that's hard, I know when we were starting the rehab center out there, we were doing some talks, I got some messages from people from Alamogordo saying, what are you doing building this to bring these people here to our town? We don't want them here, but the reality is Albuquerque's flooding right now with massive drugs and violence and everything, poverty. Now it's starting to trickle down to cruises, right? I think something like this it's just a help, right? I mean, from 11 to 8, it's going to be open. People can come in, shower, do what they need to do. And not only that, but homelessness is not those that are on the streets. I mean, it's people sleeping in their cars. I mean, if you just go to Walmart for a second and park, you'll see how many people are in that parking lot sleeping in their cars. And so we don't want this to be a Mount View Church thing. We want this to be a community thing where we can all come together, where if you guys reach out to me and say, hey, we got this going on, can we open up? Absolutely. Because we're already doing this now. I mean, everything that I mentioned to you, we're already doing it. We're just doing it at our little itty bitty area that we're doing it in Larry's Hall. So this would just magnify more need, more of what we're doing, and to meet the need more than ever in the community.
And that Kamala's house is set up the same way. They do provide housing for extreme services, but the majority is they open the doors at like 6 a.m., breakfast, lunch, dinner, required to work. They have a mail room. They have a laundry room. You're required to do all of that. You're required to take a shower, change clothes. Here's your new clothes. They have job training. They have suits for job interviews, job interview training, just all kinds of supportive services in that. And so it is in a sense a homeless shelter, but not. It's more of a supportive and a hand up to teach people how to support themselves getting out. So I'm gonna I would like to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, and again, I'm not, putting myself down, but I'm not book smart, I just have visions. And, I know you were talking about searching grant writing. I wouldn't even know where to start. That stuff's like Hebrew language to me when I read all that stuff. Yeah, with all the verbiage they use. But I mean, if somebody would want to just help us steer us in the right direction, and I'd be thankful and gracious for any of that we can do.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
okay.
Okay.
Any questions? No?
Thank you,
All right,
Pastor.
thank you. Bless y'all. Have a great day.
Good to see you. Okay, next we had Rick Hodgkinson. Would like to discuss the junk car ordinance and the properties at 53 and 83 Otero. And Rick's sick, so we're having,
Good morning.
if you'll say your name in the mic, please.
My name is Hope. I'm Rick's wife.
Okay.
He's not here today. I was just wondering about the ordinance, the junk car ordinance. I know there was a meeting last night. Did it get passed, or what are we doing?
It did not pass. It was strictly a discussion, public input. We're still working on it. RB has what he asked. He made a lot of copies of what he's kind of worked on now, gave it to the people that were here, and he's asking input from them. So, but he can ad-lib a little more on that.
There's still some challenges to navigate, to figure out the options for dealing with them that are legally viable. On one hand, it doesn't make sense, but if someone has junk on their property, vehicle junk is going to be treated differently than the non-vehicle junk. And so we have to be very intentional and make sure we're drafting things that track and follow the motor vehicle code and the dismantler, things like that. And so it's not simple, so I'm working on it.
Okay.
And it is, I understand that we don't have forever to sit here for me to try and figure out how to make it work. And so I'm being mindful of that, and want to have something passed and so that we can start acting on it as soon as possible.
And the private property owners were misinformed about the intent of this ordinance and the changes too. So basically, they felt that we were going after them and their properties where they have hobbyists, race cars, and stuff like that. So it did, that messaging that was incorrect that went out there, I think needs to be addressed, and that's what I was going to ask if because I feel like I'm part of the attack. They think that I'm trying to monetize, even though I have 200 cars I need to pick up that I'm not going to, that voluntarily wanted to be picked up. I was wondering if I could have a public meeting by myself to get public input so that these private property owners feel more protected in verbiages, like at the fire department. Am I allowed to do something like that and invite them?
You, especially in your district, for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking, asking the fire department and having a public meeting like that. So just, one of the things I went home, because I was really bothered that they felt like we were attacking them specifically, is I know that neighborhood wars are weaponized because of cars sitting on properties. And so I was thinking, okay, what if we added verbiage in there? You have a neighbor that complains about your properties, and code enforcement goes out there and find that you are in fact compliant or come into compliance, that you can't have another complaint made against you for another year by that neighbor. Just verbiage like that, so that we can stop the weaponization of neighbor wars, and they are in compliance. And is that something that can be added in there, RB, like that?
It's something we can explore.
And then, yeah, and I want obviously, if we do it at the fire station near your house, then they can drive by what we're trying to address. And so they can see, okay, help us address this and protect you. How would you like it worded so that you feel like it's protected? And also, they made it, they felt as though we dropped this entire junk car ordinance like it never been existing before, even though all we're trying to do is change verbiage to strengthen it so that we can clean up properties like this. So we need to go through and actually underline the changes, the suggestions, so that people can see what exists and what we're proposing, so that we can sharpen it a little bit better. So that's just my take on last night's meeting, but continue working forward on it.
Okay. And I have a question about 53 Alamo Trail. That's the one we're talking about with all the junk cars. Is that house been declared dilapidated? And do we have to get all the cars off? If the owner was charged with it being dilapidated, she might be more apt to tell the guy to get them off so it could be cleaned up.
Are they condemning these residents that are dilapidated? Would that enhance their way of getting them off?
It's that court
It could, it would be isolated to the structure though, to come into compliance, they would only need to deal with the structure that was declared dilapidated. And if they did not, then the county could only come in and deal with the structure. We could not deal with the vehicles. It's possible it could incentivize some action. But that's different than the other ones that were declared dilapidated. I think that was 83.
Like 83.
Yeah, and so that the owner has, since that declaration, transferred the property, donated it to a pastor or church or something, and we are pausing that process and requested a plan for cleanup from the new owner, and that we're not going to give them months, like a week, 2 weeks, something like that, and then if they don't, then we'll move forward.
And it'll move forward. Okay, this is Mr. Totten. He lives 85, probably right next to 83.
May I address? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the current owner of 85 Otero, 2 lots, and I've been developing that for the last 3 years. Spent a lot of money because I had a vision. I want to make it look good. I want that whole place developed so that we could bring in more revenue, bring in more businesses, make the place look nicer. This is my second residence. I also own one in Texas, so I'm not here all the time, but I do spend a lot of time here. And my concern is, I put a lot of money into this 2 places, and it had an old dilapidated adobe house on it. I got with the fire department over here, and they got the permits, and I had them do a learn and burn, and they burned it down, and so I had very little rubble left, so I was able to clear the property and make it presentable, bring in gravel, make it really nice. The problem I have now is I put up a $7,000 new metal privacy fence on one side, but I can't do it on the side that 83 is on, because that house sits right on my property line. So if I was to go ahead and put that fence down that line, they could damage it, burn it, whatever. So I've been holding off all this time, hoping that we could get that house at least burnt down through the county and the volunteer fire department, and then I can go ahead and finish developing the 2 lots, put up a really nice fence, and I want to do the front too, and I had it surveyed, and obviously the survey came in that fence line on the front of my property is sitting on county easement, and so I want to put it on my property line, my new fence. But I can't continue to do that until that building is gone and the roof's imploded and it's just a mess. And that's why I was hoping that even though we can't get the cars, I know it has dead titles, registration, and county has to go through a lot of problems to get the cars off. But at least if the house was gone, I could actually put my fence up and they don't have to burn the cars down, you know, they can remove them. And I could go ahead and finish developing my 2 lots. If you was to go out there now and you knew what it looked like before I did what I did, you would probably be amazed at what it looks like. And, but that's the goal between Hope and Rick and myself, is to get that whole area cleaned up and make it presentable so that, you know, somebody wants to build a nice house, they can. If a business wants to come in, they can, but you know, they're not gonna do that, and you know that as well as I do because of the condition of the properties.
I would suggest first getting in touch with the new owner and seeing, you know, how you guys could potentially work together to achieve your vision and goal. Maybe they share it. Start there and let him know that contacting the county to use it as a training opportunity for the fire department is an option, and we can go from there.
They've been out there, they've talked to the people once, and they haven't started doing anything, or, so, I don't know. I was just wondering if there's gonna be a timeline. We don't wanna wait another
Yeah, we know we can't
year,
just
2
let this
years.
drag on, so,
Okay.
yeah. They need to have a plan to us in the
That
next
was
few weeks.
You know, and if you have to condemn the buildings, I'm sure you could by looking at them.
That one is.
And that would maybe put a little pressure on somebody to work with, even me, you know, I mean, I'd be willing to work with the people to get it off of my property. If they say, yeah, let's just burn the house down and get rid of that, and we're gonna get rid of the cars, but I don't wanna wait another 4 or 5 years. I've owned the property for 3 years and I've worked steady on it, and I can't go any further the way it's at.
Are we allowed to give them the contact information of the new owners?
I believe it's a public record, and I want to say, but I think they've shared it.
All you gotta do is go over to
Has it been
the
transferred?
clerk and.
It's been transferred, yeah.
It's public record, but all we have will have addresses, like mailing addresses, but we won't have phone numbers and things like that.
Yeah.
My office to get that information.
I'm not sure I have that,
Because the
but
last time I looked, it was still in Mary Stilley's name. That was another.
she emailed, I think it was this week,
Okay.
that it had been transferred. But if you guys write down some contact info, I will see how that gets the 2 parties together.
Like I said, my husband has talked to me.
I have his number,
Offered to
but I don't have his number.
his
Yeah.
telephone number.
Mine? Okay.
No, this is in addition to what?
This is unscheduled.
So maybe next
Oh, I got you.
month-ish, something like that, I'll schedule a public, I'll work with the fire department, see when I'm allowed to have a meeting.
Okay, just like.
And I'll let you know so you can rally the troops, and then we'll try and get everybody that was here last night and.
I just went over there and contacted my head one time, and they said, oh yeah. And so I actually donated to the fire department, even though they said we get it for free. Just teaching our guys how to do it. So, they were more than happy to work with me, and I'm sure they would with anybody that has something like that next time.
Yeah, there's other problems with that building that will prevent that from happening, but we'll talk about that. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell Rick hi for us.
Okay, on the unscheduled citizen communication, we have Chris Glidden.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So I know you guys typically get a lot of flack and a lot of negative publicity, so I wanted to come up here and say thank you guys to the administration as well for the work you guys have been doing with the ICE facility.
Thank you.
You know, there's been a lot of public comments and some various opinions that are out there about why I think the county has done what they've done. And maybe don't have the full context, and maybe that can't be released because of the situation. But just the recognition to you guys for considering the people that are currently within the facility, and what the human rights, you know, that's been a hot one that everybody's been using is looking at this from a human rights perspective, and not considering the fact that the facility itself, everything that I've ever heard, is a top-notch, one of the best, if not the best, in the country. And removing those people and allowing them to be sent out to these facilities that may not be to the same standard is a detriment to those people. That being one aspect, but also considering that when you look at the impact of the residents of Chaparral, the people of the southern New Mexico, or southern Otero County, from the employment standpoint, and then all of the impacts to the revenues that are also critical from the perspective of long-term planning for Otero County is just an absolute travesty that there's so much focus on this immigration aspect and not considering the residents as a whole. And so I wanted to just take a few moments. I promised Mr. Matherly I wouldn't speak for the full 3 minutes. I just wanted to say that, you know, you often get the negative side, but there's also those that recognize in Otero County the positive, that this was not just some kind of knee-jerk reaction. It was a long-term vision, and it was really something that you were forced to do. And for the residents of the county, I think we are very gracious to the decision that was made, even though it was obvious there was going to be some flack sent your guys' direction. So I just wanted to take a moment. I was expecting there was going to be some negative comments in the meeting today, which I was shockingly surprised that it wasn't. But the fact that we could come and just tell you guys thank you for that I felt like was an important step for us. So just that was it, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Manuel Rasuelas. He's already gone. Roger Totten. Sometimes people just sign it. They think they have to sign in to just come in, so I don't think they're here. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Where's Julianne?
She's in a conference, I think.
How are we going to do this audit again? Are we going to have to?
Are they online?
Do we need to?
Oh, yes, the audit, Farley is on Teams to
Oh,
do the
okay.
audit report.
Oh, okay. I was looking for Julianne.
Yes, no, he's on, no.
Okay. Farley.
Farley, if you can hear us, we're ready for the report.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm here. And let me get this ready to be shared.
can't find something.
Great. All right, I've shared the presentation and ready to go over the results of the 2025 audit. And just a quick introduction. Rose ran the audit. I was the partner in charge with Francis and Oliver as providing audit staff. What we did as auditors is we gave an opinion on the financial statements as well as single audit, which is when we audit the major federal programs. And we also evaluate, included in those opinions, we evaluate the accounting policies, significant estimates and judgments, as well as the overall presentation of the financials and disclosures. That's our scope of work. The audit is what's called risk approach. So in other words, every time we audit each year, we need to review the numbers, the significant areas, and tailor our audit procedures to address the risk associated with the numbers in the current year. The non-attest work we do is when we are putting together the financial statements and those disclosures, and that includes the supplementary schedules called the scheduled expenditures of federal awards. We do this for all of our audits. There might be one or two exceptions. Auditors do this very often, but it is non-attest work, and so safeguards need to be in place and to keep that we stay independent. That just means that management remains responsible for the financials, and you have management, someone from management overseeing our non-attest or non-audit work. We'll talk about the limitations of the audit. So what we're doing is we're giving these opinions on the financials. Are they materially correct or not? Are the federal awards, are you in compliance with those awards? Just mostly, it's all about compliance. What the audit does not do, it does not give an opinion on the internal controls. We evaluate the internal controls, but not to give an opinion, but to give that, to determine if the financials are materially correct the way you see them in the report. And then talking about fraud. So a material mistake can happen due to an error or fraud. Fraud is hard to find. It can be concealed, can be involve collusion. So the role of governance regarding fraud is to set the tone of overseeing internal control effectiveness to deter fraud. So you have those expectations for that, and management has that responsibility to maintain anti-fraud controls, good internal controls that would deter fraud. If the management knew anything, had any concerns, even suspected fraud, they should bring that up to the attention of the auditors. It really would change the way we approach an audit, our audit procedures, the risk approach that we do. So that's just clarifying what the auditor does and what he does not do. Here's some of the key communications that we're required to convey to governance. So the accounting practices based on our audit procedures appear all appropriate, and the disclosures look transparent, estimates and the policies are all considered reasonable. Adjusting journal entries, we had 58 adjusting journal entries during the audit, and non-attest proposed adjustments, there's 32 of those. So the difference between those non-attest means that we know going into the audit that's part of the engagement, that's part of the contract, that we're going to make those certain adjustments. And proposed are just ones that we find as we audit. 42 adjustments provided by the client to government-wide presentations, a lot of numbers there, 13 adjustments. So a lot of adjustments are occurring to the everything else, no disagreements with management, no difficulties performing the audit. The big highlight of the year was the new accounting standard called GASB 101 that affects the way compensated absences, the vacation accrual, was measured. So there was a restatement because of that new accounting principle being put in place. The results of the audit, so the opinions are unmodified on the financial statement. That means it's a clean opinion. The numbers that we are presenting we are saying we believe that they're materially correct. On the federal awards, you'll notice that there were two major federal programs, the Homeland Security Grant and the COVID grant. On that Homeland grant, which is related to the Operation Stone Guard, we had a qualification. So there was something where we could not give a clean opinion on compliance on that grant. And then moving on to the findings, here's the summary of those. Capital assets finding was a repeated finding from prior years that continues. Investment and market value adjustments is a finding here. Cash reconciliation is a new finding. Those are all financial statement type findings. And then on the major federal programs, the grant financial reporting and accounting controls and the subrecipient monitoring process. Those were related to the Stone Garden. And then the last one you see there is a state audit rule compliance finding related to uncollateralized bank account. Moving on here, this is a summary of last year's findings and what's the status. So you see several are resolved. The prison facility ICE, that is resolved. Financial close, resolved. Capital assets, I mentioned, those are repeated. And then the ones that went away were PARA, the conduit debt, and then I already mentioned the ones that repeated. So that's the status of last year's findings. Here's some other information. I won't go into detail. It's just a FYI. There is a new audit standard, or they're revising the uniform guidance, the major federal program rules. So that's what this slide is all about. These additional slides, which I won't go into detail. We've covered this in other meetings. And other than that, I can stop and we do appreciate the hard work of the finance and treasurer's office and overall management working with us during the audit. So I can stand here for any questions or discussion.
I have a question on our Stone Garden finding. When I spoke to Julianne about this, that wasn't really at the fault of the county. That was waiting for other law enforcement agencies to get their paperwork to us. Is there any way to note that? Or, because it comes back on our finding as if we're doing something wrong. And I don't think it was really the county. It was a little bit out of our hands.
Yeah, the way that can be addressed is, so in the finding, it's, I don't know if you've recently looked at that, the written finding in the report. There is an area for management to respond, and we do work hard to put that in context and, make sure that it really is a finding. We do go through a big process. And then management responds to that finding.
Okay, and did you get a response from Julianne on that so that we can have that noted?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Did you get a response from our administration so that could be noted in our finding?
We do have a response to the finding.
Okay. I just wanted that to be on the record because I don't want them to think that our sheriff's office is not doing what they're supposed to do, because they are.
Yeah. And I do have if you had any questions, this is the entire report. It is on the OSA's website. as public. And then these are the findings that are addressed here. So. And you'll see that, the different captions here, the condition, but you go to the bottom and it talks about the views of responsible officials, and it's basically the response.
Okay.
I can stand for any other questions or wrap up when the commission is ready.
What is an under collateralized bank account, and how is that resolved if the banks only insure, what is it, $250,000?
Was that due to opening that new account, maybe?
I would have to ask Farley if that was concerning the treasurer's.
It says non-compliance required to be reported.
I don't have a book in front of me.
And it does say Southwest Heritage Bank of $1.5 million under collaterals. That's page 160 in your book, if you've got that.
Correct. So there's additional insurance that the bank needs to provide above and beyond the FDIC.
So
I
is
believe
it,
this was a timing issue.
so it is now in compliance?
I don't know. We'd have to check with the treasurer's office currently. I believe there was some changes in the moving, that would be clarified by the treasurer. But I believe that, like, if we look for the cost, and this cost really explains, the county began transitioning its accounts, so you moved your accounts to Southwest Heritage from another bank institution, and that caused the exposure to credit risk.
And I believe all of this is caught up. So it was the fact that I think the treasurer kind of jumped the gun, so to speak. Thought it was good to move everything, and it was a day or weeks ahead of the proper paperwork and things being in place. And so it's just getting the cart in front of the horse, but the horse is back in front now, and we're good.
That's good to know.
And then on page 157, it talks about sub-recipient monitoring processes and control. This is for the Homeland Security Emergency Management Program. There were 3 awards there, and it says that we did not maintain effective controls over the monitoring system related to the Operation Stone Garden. Is this so this again reflects on Otero County, but I don't see where you said that you have the clarification now that it is not Otero County.
To clarify this finding, so one of the requirements of Otero County is that you monitor this money that goes to the subrecipient. So if we do move down, this is all the rules and the cause and so forth. We move to the response. A management agrees with the finding. The operation, the Stone Guard grants are managed by Broken Arrow, who is contracted with Otero County, et cetera. So you have to work with Broken Arrow and make sure that the monitoring is improved, resolved.
So is that between Otero and Broken Arrow, or between other counties and Broken Arrow?
We've contracted Broken Arrow to manage it for us, but ultimately, we're getting the grant and we're dispersing it to the subrecipients, and so we have an obligation to say get your reports in, and if they're not, threaten them that they're going to get cut off, and so we needed better oversight and management of that.
And Julianne is working with Broken Arrow, the woman that's leading that effort, and they do have a plan on how to better get reporting done and get those in a timely manner.
Sorry, I have a lot of bookmarks here. That was that. That's the same stone garden.
Right, I didn't know if there's any other questions or discussion.
Yep. I have the annual report, and this may be because the annual report that I have is actually from January to December, and I think your audit goes from August to July. But there's a discrepancy in the collection of property taxes in this compared to the annual report from the Treasurer's Office to your audit. And that's on page 114 is what I'm referring to. So we actually collect more property taxes than what this shows. And so are you showing the total collection here? Or are you showing the county collection, the county allocated portion of it only? What does that reflect?
We move to that page, so 114.
Yes.
And so, yeah, this is for the period July 1st ending June 30th. So yes, we reconcile the amounts that we're presenting for the county here.
Okay, because I was just trying to get things to balance out per your report, per the treasurer's report and all that, and I just can't get it to balance. That's all I was concerned.
Yeah, if there's some questions, we could talk about that, but I believe we have reviewed all of this during the audit and tie out and get management to review the report, and so we believe we're all in agreement that these are accurate numbers.
And then how in this audit do we overview GRT taxes collected and are able to figure out if we're collecting the right GRT taxes?
We test, we look at the intake of the collections of GRT, and it is possible that because of those changes in the GRT laws of who does who receives the money versus county, sometimes municipalities, but we've tested and based on the collections and to our knowledge, it's all the county's GRT. We have seen it in our experience. There was a municipality we audited that there was a clawback of GRT that needed to go. It was that the New Mexico Tax and Revenue incorrectly gave it to the wrong entity. So that's possible.
So how can we audit the amount that's owed in GRT taxes?
That's a tough question to answer because, and I think that's an ongoing question that's been asked for many years. I think entities have sued the Taxation and Revenue Department based on that it's opaque, it's hard to understand how do we know that these numbers are right? That's beyond the scope of this audit. So, yeah, that's a different issue.
That's most of my light reading.
Oh, yeah. Did you have anything? I think that's it. I think we're good.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you
Thank
for your help.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so number 22, request approval for James Bowman to present an assessor's report.
Do we have to vote to approve that audit?
Yes,
Oh, I'm
you-
sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, my stomach's growling.
You got the cart in front of the horse again.
Yes, yeah, hang on, horse. Okay, I make a motion to approve resolution 04-09-26/114-71, presentation and acceptance of FY 2025 financial audit.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, now James, sorry.
That's all right.
Now you can be the horse.
Now I'll be the horse. All right, still morning, so good morning again, commissioners. James Bowman, Otero County Assessor. Yeah, so I'm not here to ask for anything now, so that's a good thing. Just here to present for you guys the commission report. I also too, while I was waiting for this, I did some communication in my office just to kind of clear up some things, just so we can so everybody kind of knows. On the veterans exemptions, how it's going to be processed is if you have a couple spouses, we will take the higher of the two percentages. So
So you're not
60%
stacking
versus
them?
40. No, we're gonna
You
go
would just
60.
do the 60?
Yes, ma'am. And that was one thing that we were trying to figure out for the longest time, and we went back and forth, and I conferred with my people back in the office, and they said, yeah, it's the higher of the two.
Okay.
So 60% versus 40, we'll take the 60. For the question on the bill that you were asking about is 186. It was actually it's a bill that did not pass, but what it was trying to do a 40% capitalization rate on apartment complexes. Because there's a lot of counties that were having issues with bringing apartment complexes closer to market value because they were possibly not valued correctly for a long time, and there was a lot of, I think, missed revenue on those. So there was a proposal to try to see if we can get them pushed up, almost not in the sense of non-residential limitations like we can do now with commercial. They can go to full market value without any resistance. That's what they were trying to do, is try to get them to go up to at least 40%, but that didn't pass. So we're still not dealing with that, but that was what it was.
And there was no other 40% proposals out there? Just
Nothing that we saw, yeah. So I had my people look just to make sure,
Okay.
but again, if you do some digging, you see something else, let us know, and we'll try to see if we can clarify it. But those two things that we did, just wanted to try to get that on record so you guys can know. Yeah, so with the commissioner report, I like to just give you guys a few numbers. I don't want to go through the whole thing for you guys because I know it's a lot, and I know you guys actually have what you guys have. You'll have the sales ratio report and the valuation report as well, which is a lot of pages. But what that is going to be is it's kind of a more detailed version of page 2 on my report to you guys. That will include sell prices and things like that for commercial properties that we might have for those, or it's mostly going to be residential. That's what we had the most of. And so that will actually give you a detailed breakdown. But of course, if you ever have questions about that, just let me know. We saw a net new value for the calendar year for 2026 of $90,714,440. We're looking into about a taxable value for that at about $30,238,146, which is again the 33% of that taxable that new value that we tax on. This past year, we did see an increase from last year to this the year prior to this year in the amount of permits that we had pulled. Not a huge increase, but we did go from about 1457 to about 1611 in permits for that. And we did see residential sales actually increase a little bit this past year as well. We have, we are kind of glad with, well, not kind of, we are really glad with the way that we've been doing. I'm in my 4th year now of this term. And in these previous years, we have been able to have the ability to show growth in our county, which, right now during rendition, this is what we're doing right now with NOVs that are sent out. We get a lot of people that are continuously asking why, rates are going, about consistently about 3% every year that we're kind of increasing. It's what it's actually doing is it's affecting our county kind of positively, where it's actually showing the growth, and we've been showing growth steadily over the last 3 years. And what it's actually doing is it's actually bringing in and attracting new businesses. We're kind of seeing a little bit of a facelift throughout the county with new commercial businesses that are coming in, businesses that are giving themselves, remodels and things like that. It's kind of crazy, you don't want Long John Silver's until Long John Silver's is gone. Now it's gone, I'm wanting it all the time, so I'm waiting for it to be finished. But yeah, so we're seeing growth in that, and I think it is a direct relationship with the actual growth that we're showing by picking up the structure that we're picking up. We had a great year with one of my appraisers who was actually able to complete all new commercial ownership changes or any type of like permit work that was done with our commercial structures. That is something we haven't actually been able to do for a few years, but she has actually gone through, and we had all of our commercial stuff was actually picked up and accounted for this year. So that was a huge help for us too, because now we actually have good values for those, and we're not just we're not relying on the numbers we might have had previously. So it's actually really good to keep those current and correct, and we're really consistent with that now. The other thing I wanted to point out, so when you see the increase that we talked about with the $90 million, be aware that that number can change slightly, and it will change because we are in rendition time, which is also considered protest time for some people. I believe my deputy assessor, Ricardo, he handles a lot of our rendition information, and he does an incredible job of helping. Again, we educate during this time. Business owners, they come in, they ask questions, and we have a conversation. On my audit, I kind of get slapped on the wrist a lot because I don't send them to formal protests a lot of times, which is what we could do. We could just say, well, we'll see you in a hearing, but we believe in just having a conversation. We're not naive enough to say that we're always right. We do have the presumption of correctness, which is a state statute that we can use, and we do feel like we have pretty accurate numbers regardless, but again, we know we make mistakes, or someone might actually be able to come and show us something that we might not have caught on our in-field inspections and things like that. So we do have the conversation, and if we need to make adjustments, we will, as long as it makes sense to our standards and statute standards. And again, if it's fair and consistent, we just try to make sure that, in my mind, at the end of the day, we could go to formal protests and things like that, but it's a waste of their time, our time sometimes, and we can be working on trying to get some other things taken care of in the meantime. So that number will change, and we will have those values certified by the end of July to get ready for the new mill rates and everything for this coming year. We discussed already about the $4,000 to $10,000 increase for the veterans. When you look at the third page on this report, you'll see that the 2025 year was the one year that we had that was, it was like 3% increase in overall growth, but the numbers that we've looked at and we ran, it's pretty much attributed to that deficit that we took on with the veterans exemptions and things like that. So again, before the season ends for us, for our protest time, the number that we have here, again, won't be certified. We're at around 6% growth right now, which is a little bit low. We were around 7% for the previous years. Right now we're about 6%, but we're still showing that where, I want to say before I took office, I think we're showing maybe a consistent 2.5% to 3% growth. So, but yeah, those are just like the main numbers I like to kind of talk about, but any questions you may have, I'm here to answer.
I really appreciate this report. I think it's one of the best I've seen, so this is good information. Thank you for doing this.
Of course, of course.
You have anything?
Well, this was a little confusing to me.
Oh yeah, when we were putting it together, we kind of, it's important for us to again, try to educate as best we can. And I know it's a lot to go through, but it does give you an understanding, a breakdown of each district and everything that we have to make sure that you kind of understand. Because I know a lot of questions like, where's this money being allocated to and things like that, which I know that's part of the treasurer's report and things like that, but at least you can kind of see where we're seeing sales or permit work and things like that. And it just, for each of you, controlling your districts and everything like that, it, should help at least. So if there's questions and everything, you can refer back there. And then, again, if it's still those who confusing, you just send them our way and we'll take care of it. We'll help out, so.
Go across the alley.
Yeah, just go over there.
Yeah.
Middle office, they'll answer your questions for you. But yeah, the other thing that we're still seeing too is, I know I talked about it last year, I talked about it the year before, and it's continuously going, is Chaparral is still growing and growing. This past year, we did another 247, this was just sales on mobile homes. That's not even like really including mobile homes that are getting moved in, and the subdivisions, they keep on carving them out, getting them ready, and they keep getting filled. So I do not see that slowing down really anytime soon. So I think it's a good thing. It's a lot of work for us, but we're on top of it right now. So
I don't have anything else. No,
Okay.
this is good. This is great.
Okay, thank you, James.
awesome, no problem. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Can I get a motion?
Request approval for the report.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve James Bowman, our county assessor's report for us.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll go on to our commissioner's report.
So, I'm going to read you something that was sent from our letter from the MTC, from the prisons down there. It was a little bit on what Chris mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, did all of y'all get this? Or
Yes.
Did you get?
Yeah, from the people that came from out of country
Yeah.
to visit, yeah.
But I'll read it anyway, so just the ones that haven't heard it or seen it. The Otero County Processing recently had the honor of welcoming representatives from Hayden, and I'll never pronounce these right. Hayden, got it right. Colombia and Guatemala. They were consultants coming in 2 separate visits. During their time at the facility, the delegations met with residents from the representative countries and toured the center. We are grateful for their opportunity to provide a first-hand look at our daily operations and to continue demonstrating our commitments to transparency. The visiting representative expressed appreciation for the experience and were highly impressed with the facility, staff, and overall operations. One delegation even shared additional words of appreciation following their visits. Let me see if it was in an attachment. But anyway, even when these people from their companies came and talked to the people in the facility, one-on-one and stuff, they still came out with a very positive, high-rated deal. So if everybody wonders why, 3 reasons now, just because of that, of the way they are taken care of, why we're fighting so hard to try to keep this, is we're helping these people. We're not hurting them, we're not beating them up on the streets, this is a total different deal than what everybody's seeing on TV, and it's just very mind-blowing that you want to take that help away from them. So, anyway, we've had several little special meetings in the last month or so. Went down, Chris was down there too. We went to Chaparral on the Colquitt meeting. We had our first budget meeting, which, thanks to Sheriff Black, he made a big cut right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that helped a little bit. We're still a long ways away. Went to a Firewise Zoom meeting. There was a lot of people on that meeting. There was a lot still that's being done, and it's getting close to getting everything worked out. I am very sorry that I didn't get to make the Walker dedication at the fire station. I wish that had been there, but just didn't work out. Went to a soil and water meeting on the dams. We've got a lot to talk about on that. That's a very interesting, some of the options. But that'll be coming up in the future. Went to the groundbreaking service in Tularosa. It was a big turnout. That was a pretty neat deal. I didn't realize I was talking to the school superintendent until they introduced her up there. I'm like, oh, okay. But I made a comment to her when I pulled in there, of all the portables that were at the high school, it's unreal how big that school has grown. And she told me their enrollment's up like 200 and something. So there's probably 25 portables there. So that's a lot of portables. So we had our special meeting last night. And then I'm going to Chaparral tonight, like I mentioned to Sheriff Black, on a cannabis meeting. Not 100% sure what all this is going to make up, but it'd be interesting to see what they say, what their feelings that the regulations should be changed, some of what they see is wrong with the program. There's supposed to be a doctor there also. And my big deal is, how does the law enforcement, you have a DUI check, what about a DCI check or whatever you call it, cannabis check? How do you really, have they got a way to test that yet? So, there's a lot of things to see what they have to say on it. Part of it was going to be on underage stuff, selling, and so anyway, it might be a little interesting. So, like I say, David, if you get some questions you want me to ask, shoot them to me and I'll see if I can get an answer. So, other than that, that's about it.
And you got your foot fixed.
Yes, I got shoes on.
Shoes on today.
No boots, but I got shoes.
I went to Coffee and Connections, 2 Tularosa council meetings, state mental illness Zoom, the bike blessing, which is always a ton of fun, the legislative update at the Inc.
Innovation Center.
Innovation Center. We had special commission meetings. I went to the Kiwanis meeting, went to the candidate forum in Weed. I was on the radio with Nadia Sykes. Sent my daughter and son-in-law and 2-year-old grandbaby to the White House for the Easter egg roll.
I bet they
which
had a
was
blast.
just absolutely wonderful. The pictures are amazing. Went to the Tularosa Little League opening night and threw the first pitch and actually made it. Threw my elbow out, threw my shoulder out.
Yeah.
And
But the ball made it across.
Yeah, that was amazing. That is something that I've supported since day one, when that field was full of weeds 5 foot tall. And Casey has done an amazing job with that. I can't believe how many teams that Little League has now. So totally exciting, totally support that 100%. I went to my very first Military Planning Commission meeting. That was
interesting.
Very interesting. And I think that we have some avenues that we can strengthen our relationship with Holloman Air Force Base. I know that it's for all military installations in New Mexico, but I really seen some gaps that I think that we can fill in on multiple things. And I spoke with Ed Babson, who is a commissioner. Mm-hmm. And I will work with him on some of that kind of stuff, especially the grant funding for some of the stuff that they're trying to seek for themselves that we could be supportive of. So that was really good for me to go to. And then the Tularosa Middle School groundbreaking.
Very good.
I think that's it.
Okay, since our last meeting, I attended the State Advisory Board meeting in Albuquerque. We're having 2 members of each affiliate, so we've got the commissioners, the clerks, the attorneys, the assessors, the sheriffs. Everybody's coming together to try to clean up some of the language in our statute about what the actual functions are of each elected official and how they work with the other officials. So it's been a lot, because there's a lot of different ideas, but we're trying to get that cleaned up. Went to the fairgrounds and attended a 4-H agent selection. You know, we're having to get a new 4-H agent because Hannah left us. She thought she had to get married and move. I was on the radio with Trent, and I hosted the Arizona New Mexico Coalition of Counties here in Alamogordo. We met at the Innovation Center at Inkwell, and it was really well attended, and everybody was real impressed with that facility. Attended a legislative update here in Alamogordo, also at the Inkwell. And then we had a special commission meeting. Attended the New Mexico Sheriff's Association conference meeting to set up the next conference in, is it August, I think? Yeah, in Ruidoso again. That's a lot of fun. I mean, you learn a lot going to those. Attended the political forum in Weed. Attended the Taber meeting, our special meeting for the budget. Attended the legislative update meeting in Roswell also, which was very well attended. It was a good meeting. Attended Charles Walker's plaque dedication up at 16 Springs, and Dottie deserves a pat on the back for that plaque. It was really nice, really heavy, and really pretty. She did a good job. Attended the Otero County Soil and Water Conservation meeting about the dams that we've been talking about. Most people don't even realize we have 3 dams in Otero County, but we do. Got one in Curtis Canyon, Bear Canyon, and Graveyard Canyon. Attended the groundbreaking for the Tularosa Middle School, and I attended a meeting yesterday along with RB at the Forest Service with the Gosses, and they had Makicho, I never say her name right, Martin. However, she came down from Albuquerque at the direction of the Forest Director in Washington, Tom Schultz. He had her come down to the meeting, so hoping we're going to make some progress on that. And so that's what I've been doing since the last meeting.
All right, commissioners, it's been very busy in my office. Don't ask me what I've done, but it's been busy. Of course, I have been all consumed with our capital outlay grants from 2025 and was so happy this week when I could tell you we got 3 of 4.
Yes.
I still log into the system every day, and what's interesting about the state's new software website that they use is that they're ever changing and adding things to it, and we're not notified, we're not trained. So I logged in as we sat here to see if the grant agreement for the Chaparral Public Safety Facility was there, and it's not. However, they have added something now that talks about your expenditure progress, and 19.4% of the time has elapsed, and we are behind schedule. Yet we have no grant agreement.
Exactly.
So I found that amusing. So I'm still working on that. Then I was already notified yesterday that the bond questionnaires are ready for me to fill out on the 26 capital outlay, which is funny because the first training to do that just took place today. I will be partaking in that on the 14th. And based on a conversation we had last night with the capital outlay reform that's coming out, there's a webinar next week that I'm going to take part in and see what that is about. And then another big effort of mine the last few weeks, like always, but more lately, is meeting with our broadband consultants. And I did meet with the general manager and one of his staff members last week from TBTC in my office. Their big push and one of our big efforts right now are getting fiber to the jail. And there is a possibility to use ARPA funding before December 31st for that. However, Daniel with TBTC reached out to me by email this morning and said they're having trouble getting that funding through OBEY. So I reached out to my consultants to see if they can also give some push. So I'm working on that. That's all I have.
Been busy.
Good morning, Commissioners. It does not feel like a month has passed since we last met.
Have you slept since the last meeting?
Not much. Speaking of that, late last night, our response to the Attorney General's petition for writ of mandamus at the Supreme Court, our response was filed. It was a short timeline. We were served last Wednesday, and our response was due yesterday. And so it's in. I feel very confident about it and our position. And we'll see what happens, but, you know, I wouldn't have advised you on the courses of action that I've advised you on if I didn't feel that we had a strong legal position, and I still feel that, so. So we'll see what happens. Last month, you approved me reaching out on geothermal projects. I did send out some letters, and from those letters, I did have conversations with Fort Bliss and White Sands Missile Range. They're actively working on these things, and they were happy to hear about our interest and support, and we'll see where it goes. We obviously there was a bunch of funding available to be applied for on March 27th, but there was not enough time to put anything together or do anything jointly with anyone. But there'll likely be more rounds, and the important thing is just getting our interest and support out there. And so I'm working on that. I had a few conversations about data centers, but it's all still very preliminary, nothing of significance to report. But I have had some local folks express, from the geothermal, solar, data center, development-wise, express interest about having land and resources available, and if the county becomes aware of opportunities that are win-win for everyone, they're open to that, and so that is promising and good. I have not had an opportunity to take further steps on the MOU with Lincoln County. Hopefully this next week I can turn to that and focus on it. There will be a lot of work that needs to be done on the upper Rio Penasco dams. We've all mentioned those meetings. Reading months out forecasts about weather and whether it's going to be a El Nino and La Nina and stuff, that's all, I don't know how much stock to put in it, but I have read things that this year's going to be a super El Nino, and the reports that I read have suggested that could mean more fall and winter precipitation than average in the form of rain. There's only so much we can do between now and then, but it is prudent to be mindful of these things, and as far as what we can do between now and then is making sure the warning system is operational and that awareness is put out there, and that places like those RV parks are letting their visitors who aren't from the area and will have no idea what to expect with a rainstorm are informed of the risk and provided with resources necessary should something catastrophic be about to happen. I've had some early conversations with the city about ambulance, revising our ambulance agreements, and the future of dispatch, and what type of arrangements we will have. Currently, as you know, the city had previously expressed a plan to separate from Tiberta and stand up their own dispatch on 1 April, and that date is coming past, and they were not where they intended to be, so they are still operating with us, and June 1st is the new date, and we are discussing, it's public safety at the end of the day, and taking care of the public, and so that takes precedence, and we're not going to turn off the phones or something like that. But there's still the fact that funds are being expended and there's cost. And so we are working on having conversations about those payments. So I will keep you updated on that. And that, barring questions, that's all I've got.
That's a lot. Does anybody have anything else?
No. I'm glad your wife is okay.
Me too.
And we're still going in executive?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Okay, I make a motion to hold an executive session under NMSA 1978-10-15-1, 1-8 to discuss pending and threatened litigation. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Marquardt?
Here?
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Burrow?
Here.
I'm gonna take a quick